Now that we're all relaxed with that soothing music, welcome into your Tuesday night show here on WCBS, folks. I know we're a little bit late, but I wanted to be able to check out Andor to talk about that show tonight because I can't just go coming in guns a-blazing talking about a show that I haven't watched yet. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it live up to the hype? Keep watching and find out. But folks, I am not alone. First off, you know my co-host, all the way from the Ripverse. Say hello to Andy Andrew.
Going on, Jeff? What's going on, Chad? It's good to be back with y'all. There's a lot of Star Wars news in the air. This is going to be, I think, the first genuinely Star Wars centric, at least mostly, episode in quite a while.
Well, you are right. And we'll talk about all that news in just a moment. But say hello to our other guest up from the Great White North. Say hello to the Script Doctor.
Hey, everybody. So happy to be here today. There's my little wave for you. I'm looking forward to hearing your opinions on Andor. I have not had a chance to see it. I was busy making something that wasn't affiliated with Disney.
Me too, but it was making fun of Disney, so you know what's up.
That's awesome.
But folks, we're going to talk about Andor, and we're going to talk about all the news that dropped this week because a lot of it dropped, and we're going to play a game tonight. How much will get actually made? Because if you've been watching us for a while, you know that all these announcements means very little until we get to see some concrete proof that it's real, that it's coming out. So we're going to be talking about some films that have been in the hopper for the last 2 years, it feels like, going on 3 at this point. But we'll talk about what we've seen, what we haven't seen, what we want to see, and a whole lot more. But before we do, hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you enjoy this content. We are currently on X as well as Rumble, so share the link, let everybody know that WCBS is live, and let's get things rolling by checking in with our wonderful, wonderful audience. Our friend Sejorjan has been a member for 26 months. Thank you, Sejorjan, for being a member for 26 months. Sejorjan drops in this massive super chat saying, Lucasfilm, new Sith Lord with a crazy lightsaber in the upcoming Star Wars Visions episode, The Duel. Payback, me, cock shotgun with salt, birdshot, and buckshot rounds in the magazine. Force dodge this.
I will say before we get too much into the celebration announcements, there were actually a few things that I saw and I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty dumb. It's one of those things that totally felt like, hey, let's make something as insane as possible, regardless of how stupid it looks, and see if it gets pops. Because there are going to be people out there who are freaking Star Wars normies who think that just because something has never been done before or looks crazy to the nth degree of this, it's like an evolution, really more like a de-evolution in this case, of a thing that's already cool. You don't need to do anything else with the lightsaber, guys. Like if you a double-bladed lightsaber is perfectly fine. You don't have to do anything else with it. You don't have to make it spin like a helicopter. You don't have to turn it into a whip. Granted, that was done in the Old Republic anyway, so I can't really complain because it was cool when they did it again.
You don't have to have a Y-shaped lightsaber with 3 blades on it.
Yeah, you don't have to do all this crazy. It's already a lightsaber.
You guys don't like tuning fork lightsabers?
No, I don't. I think it's dumb. And this thing was absolutely asinine. I saw that and I was like, what are we even doing here?
The Swiss Army lightsaber.
Sign me up for that show.
It was, I don't, like, whoever within Lucasfilm approved that. Like, somebody was stupid enough to come up with the idea, right? But then it went past a few checks, presumably, within creative until it reached the top. And every single one of those people whose desk it crossed said, yeah, we can keep that. That's a good idea.
It's out of desperation because, again, if it's something you haven't seen before, people are thinking like, oh, I'm going to be the first one to have my name associated with this. They don't care if it's going to be good or bad. The other part too is they don't know if it's going to be good or bad. They think it's going to be good. That's why they sign off on it. And it all comes down to, well, how well does it resonate with your core audience? How well does it bring in new audience members? That's what's up in the air. But Star Wars, and I mentioned this on Versus along with Robert Meyer Burnett, he had a way better speech than I did, but he basically said Star Wars has become so much about itself that it's no longer able to connect with people. And because of that, I mean, again, world building is a byproduct of how characters interact with each other, and then the world kind of reacts to that as a consequence. right now we've had Disney kind of just trying to lay out the world first and then insert characters from other parts of Star Wars, or apply who those characters are into what Star Wars has been. And everything has just kind of been like a dice in a Yahtzee cup, and then they just throw it out. All of a sudden you're like, well, what happened to the dice? You shook it up, you threw it out there, and there's no dice anymore. So it's just nothing. It's just emptiness. There's no value to any of that. And everyone else in the audience is like saying, well, where's Star Wars? Like, we see it. It's a Disney Plus brand now because it hasn't been in theaters in almost 6 years. The vast majority of the world is unfortunately very well aware that Star Wars hasn't actually existed from their point of view. They don't know that it's on Disney Plus because Disney Plus has a lot of subscribers, but it doesn't have a whole lot of activity going on it. And so for a lot of people outside of this space, Star Wars has gone away, just like it did between 1984 and 1992. Before the books and the games kind of took off with the, expansion of what computers could get away with, what console systems could do. And that resurgence of the games and the books led into the re-release of the original trilogy via the special edition. And then that led into the prequel trilogy. And the prequel trilogy was the biggest Star Wars had ever been at that point in time. Because it was very much huge in the 70s, but that revival, you had anticipatory market, you had generations that grew up on that stuff, all excited.
You also had just like an additional generation that was introduced at that time because of that prior generation that had experienced it in theaters originally when A New Hope came out.
Name another time between 1990 and 1999 where people lined up outside of the theater 1 year ahead of the debut date of Star Wars.
Never.
It's never happened before. And it didn't happen anything with The Force Awakens either. But like, to that point, Star Wars had a dead period. It then had a minor dead period after Revenge of the Sith, because again, there was basically the Clone Wars cartoon was the only thing kind of really keeping new Star Wars content in the conversation for a few years after that, before it was then sold off to Disney. And Lucas was desperate trying to get more television style Star Wars shows into production, but he was the only one financing it. And a lot of people didn't want to risk broadcasting the stuff that he did, that he was trying to do. So that's a pretty sad state of things. And now Star Wars, which used to be a cinematic event, is diluted with...
Well, now it's just a quarterly mid-ass freaking TV series on Disney Plus. That's all it is now.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's got some CW style metrics to it. It's not on broadcast, which means it doesn't have a chance for advertising dollars, and the advertising dollars it does get through subscription, like ad-based subscription, is minuscule because nobody's watching it. It's pretty tragic. Yeah.
It's weird too, because we've watched, well, I'm not Venom, excuse me, but I've watched a lot
royal
of videos. Yes. Let me go get my dude sweater on. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of videos talking about the streaming, the cost of streaming, how streaming's changed entertainment, not necessarily for the good. And Script, you make a great point when you talk about how for a generation, for a large group of people, how it's gone away. It's essentially the streaming show. It doesn't have much presence in the retail market, as we always talk about. And it makes me wonder just how much of that's going to reflect upon this upcoming push, because clearly they're trying to push this for the next how many years. They're
trying to reinvigorate.
And it feels like it too. Like, if you pay attention, like on the merchandise front, they're trying to reinvigorate. They're bringing out the original characters with new designs.
I'm not gonna lie, they announced that new Cal Kestis Black Series like special edition figure, and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna get that.
I laughed because it has a mullet and a mustache.
Not because it has the alternate head, but because it's Cal Kestis, but that's the cherry on top.
Well, I looked at it and I went, this is a real toy. This looks like Lewis from Office Space. I don't know. Yeah.
That they took like the funniest alternate like hair design you could do in Jedi Survivor, and they decided to make a secondary head sculpt off of it. I kind of got to give them props for that. Like, I would never actually use that in game or on the toy itself. Truth is, I'm probably not going to open it, but like the fact that they chose the most ridiculous possible option, I kind of respect it.
Takes some chutzpah to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm probably going to open that Han Solo figure that I buy, but that's about it. Maybe Chewbacca. But no, since we're talking about all this news, we'll get to Andor. Now, folks, I have watched Andor Season 2. I haven't watched all 3 episodes because I didn't realize that all 3 episodes were dropping right now. So I can't really have watched 3 episodes in 90 minutes.
And they dropped 3 on night
Yep.
one? Man,
3
they're
this
really
week.
desperate.
Yeah, they're getting all in this. So here's the thing. So they're doing it to get 2 months of subscriptions because this week and next week are the last 2 weeks of the month. And then third week is May. So that's your 1 extra month subscription. And they're doing it in those sections because, frankly, and this is what I discovered watching, kind of came to a realization watching some older Netflix shows and then watching Daredevil Born Again, is that these shows are written with a binge model in mind, even though they are starting to release them on a weekly basis. Because if you binge a bunch of these shows, the momentum carries over so well that you're able to kind of just retain the high points and forget about the low points. But when you watch it weekly, because you're just getting that single episode, you're able to digest the entirety of that episode and get a little bit disappointed because it's not fully delivering what you need on a story level, but it does on a binge. If you do 8 hours back to back, you forget the filler scenes in between. And you're just hitting the normal prominent points. And this is a situation that even though Daredevil Born Again, I would say is mid, it's mid in the sense that it's kind of in line with the first 3 seasons because there's a lot of milking the potential in season 1. And then season 2 is the whole, I'm going to give up Daredevil, then I'm going to come back to Daredevil. Then season 3 is I'm giving up Daredevil, but then I'm coming back to it. Repeats itself a lot. And Daredevil Born Again does that as well. Not to get too off the shot here, but even when you go back to Andor, when they drop those episodes in kind of pockets, there's a lot of story setup that's completely discarded. For instance, the entire motivation of Andor just getting into the situation he is was to find his sister. Never resolved at all. Not even brought up after the third episode. And Tony Gilroy kind of came up with this thing after he technically stole Rogue One from Gareth Edwards, because Edwards is learning to still be a director. He's a great special effects artist, great integrator of that, and cinematographer. Director, he's working his way up, but he didn't have the chops according to Lucasfilm for Rogue One. And then Tony Gilroy, I think, is a mixed bag, personally. I mean, I like some of the stuff he does, but not all. And he's done something that I think George Lucas is pretty upset with, which is he has made the Rebels borderline almost as evil as the Empire, because they're willing to defeat the Empire at any cost, even if it's their own moral fiber. And that was never an idea presented in the original trilogy. And when you bring that in there, it makes you question. It makes the audience ask a question it really should never have to ask, which is, wait, who are the good guys here? And I mean, thankfully, the original trilogy, you definitively know who the good guys are. But now that you've got Andor and what they did in Rogue One, it's like, well, Luke, Han, and Leia are definitely good guys, but the rest of the rebellion, I don't know. And you kind of don't really want that. You want something more unified, because the whole idea is
and they didn't even stop there.
No.
Look at The Last Jedi.
Let's not.
Look, no, let's not to go down a rabbit trail. Definitely not that. But I mean,
the corrupt New Republic, yeah.
Well, but no, not even that. Like, Luke tried to kill his nephew for having bad dreams. Like, that's not good guy material. That's not good guy status.
That's not what Luke would do. What Luke would do would be, because again, the lesson of what the Jedi trial, as of the original trilogy, is you don't kill a Sith Lord. You rescue them from darkness so that they don't continue on the Sith traditions. It's basically like a form of redemption and forgiveness, because again, George Lucas has said many times, the 2 trilogies he has made end up becoming the fall and rise and redemption of Anakin Skywalker by way of his son. So if the goal is redemption, the whole idea is the fact that the true way to become a Jedi is to rescue someone who has fallen to the dark side, rescue them out of darkness, bring them over to the light. Doesn't absolve them of their sins, but once they're pulled out of that, they're not going to be perpetuating those sins anymore. They're able to actually make recompense. They're able to redeem themselves, prove that they're no longer that person, continue to do right so that they're no longer contributing to evil. That is what the code of the Jedi is. When Luke's, realizes, hey, yeah, I'm going to throw down my lightsaber, and I'd rather die on my feet as a Jedi than kill my father and fall to the dark side and repeat the cycle that began before I was born. And that's the lesson. That lesson, sadly, not really picked up by many of the science fiction writers that participated in the EU. Definitely forgotten by George Lucas when he was doing the prequel trilogy, and completely off the radar of anyone at Disney doing the sequel. And here we are suffering for it. Just.
Yeah, they haven't really, suffer for Andor, I wouldn't say is the right word, but it definitely creates a version of this universe that I'm not familiar with or comfortable with. Meaning, you talk about how you don't know who the good guys or the bad guys are, but and it takes away this sense of nobility with the good versus evil in the original Star Wars. Because I get it that we have come to a point where we try to deconstruct our stories, all the great myths and epics and all these wonderful films that we've had for almost 50 years at this point. It's Hollywood's trend to either remake them or deconstruct them. And I always find the deconstruction a little deflating because I can't really think of times where the deconstruction actually makes me appreciate the property, the story, the entity any more than I do. It usually makes me feel lesser than, because
a lot of people might point to like Alan Moore and Watchmen, but I'm probably the black sheep where I'm like, I don't freaking like Watchmen, actually.
I don't like what has
Watchmen
become
either.
as a result of it. I like the story as it is. I don't like it how influential it has become.
Well, because everybody now wants to just deconstruct things. And to Jeff's point, you start ending up in this place that we're at now where everybody wants to make some sort of a like in between, morally gray, like, is this person actually good? Are they bad? Blah, blah, blah. I can't tell today. It might be different tomorrow. Like, that has worked very few times genuinely.
It worked,
and it actually be fun. It just, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, it doesn't, and it's overplayed. And you can have characters that are maybe morally gray or maybe a little darker. You can have your anti-heroes, right? Those can be fun. Those can be a ton of fun. Those are actually, in a lot of cases, those are kind of wish fulfillment, right? You take a character like the Punisher, right? Or Venom, Lethal Protector. And, they're going after these guys that are genuinely horrible people that, like, if you're a normal human being, you're like, those are the kind of people that, like, I don't know, maybe they should actually just die, right? And there's kind of that wish fulfillment thing there. But you also internally, as a person, know, yeah, we still need actual, just genuinely
moral
not
paragon.
Perfect, but yeah, you need your moral paragon. That doesn't mean they're not flawed. Right? Those do not mean they're not flawed, but you need to have those characters who are genuinely good, right? In order to have, because then you get to have a nice contrast, because then you have your Peter Parker and your Norman Osborn, right? You have your Clark Kent and your Lex Luthors. You have these polar opposites on the good and evil spectrum, and it's important to have.
But they each have very strong points of view of why they do what they do. Now, to bring it back to your moral gray area, so in the start of Return of the Jedi, Luke is in a moral gray area. What's the first force power we see him do? Well, he force chokes those Gamorrean guards. That's not a light side power. That's a dark side power.
Nope.
He's also dressed in black colors, which have been conflated to be, that was the traditional Jedi costume at the time, wearing all black. No, it wasn't. There's no Jedi
really
costume.
Wasn't.
But here, what's the other thing he says? He goes to Jabba and he says, I'd like to bargain for Han Solo's life, and I'm bargaining it by allowing you to live so that you can give me Han. And then before he gets thrown into the pit, he says, Jabba, free us or die. None of that is Jedi Knight behavior. And that's just showing that Luke Skywalker
no, it's not.
Is tempted, is basically on that fence line of he's still a rebel in his heart, because that's his first kind of introduction to everything. What's the rebels? Well, we just kill our enemies because they're bad. But the Jedi is the lessons that Obi-Wan was trying to teach Luke, the lessons that that Yoda was trying to teach Luke, is that
Well,
knowledge and
even
defense.
Mace Windu, we can't fight a war for you. We're keepers of the peace, right?
They're supposed
Though
to be, yeah.
they end up fighting a war anyway, which is at least the second
paying it-
time in Jedi Order history that they've done that and paid for it actually.
Exactly. But like to further along, right? When Luke, when Yoda actually has a line here that has a whole lot of deeper meaning, and that is after he reveals that yes, Darth Vader is your father, and like, I warned you not to go face him, that you rushed in to face him, and then he basically says, listen, your training is complete. No more training you require. Pass on what you have learned. Luke says, then I am a Jedi. And he laughs. He's like, no, not yet. But when he says no more training you require, already knew you that which you learned, you have to remember that Yoda has the ability to be able to observe Luke through the Force from Dagobah, because he insulted him for being the kid that looked off into the horizon, thinking about the future, never his mind on where he was. So he knows that Luke has done some things. Whether he knows the details of it, he feels enough of it. But because he tells him, like, okay, yes, you're teetering on the dark side, but I'm telling you that you don't have anything more to learn on the ways of the Force with regards to like what I could train you. Your next lesson comes from facing your father. And there's hope under that as a subtext. It's basically saying, Luke, I know you're tempted to the dark side, but I know you're a good person because I have nothing more to teach you. But then he talks to Obi-Wan. And what does Obi-Wan say? You got to face Darth Vader again. And Luke immediately says, I cannot kill my father. And Obi-Wan's response to, then the Emperor has already won. And the subtext of that is, I am telling you not to kill your father. I'm telling you to face your father. There's a difference. The fact that you keep thinking of killing it, that means you're playing into the Emperor's hand. Because after all, why would Yoda and Obi-Wan want the exact same outcome of Luke killing Vader the same way that Palpatine wants Luke to kill Vader? Doesn't make sense. They're teaching them a lesson by basically trying to challenge his perspective. And the fact that so many writers and so many like diehard Star Wars fans who I adore didn't quite pick that up right away is a little bit of a disappointment. Because at the very end, it kind of follows it. They're like, okay, yeah, he didn't kill his father. He saved his father. But you have to look deeper into what that actually means. It means that the philosophy of the Jedi, the whole knowledge and defense, never attack, is to pull people out of darkness. And Luke has this extra empathetic advantage in the fact that he's got a connection to a parent that he never knew, that he desperately wants to have in his life. And he is willing to sacrifice himself in order to just get something honest out of that man. And even in doing so, he saves his man's soul, and he still doesn't get the chance to really spend time with his dad. But his father ends up living up to the hero that Luke imagined him being, because he was the one who destroyed the Emperor at the sacrifice of his own soul, but at the same time having his soul saved by Luke Skywalker. And that's why I appreciate Jedi, and also why I think it's 1/3 of an excellent movie, because they did a little bit of a disservice to Han and Leia. They were basically functioning rebels. They didn't have any conflict going on there. But that is such a great story. And the fact that we don't have that Disney will not bring in writers that understand that level, that understand the human connection to stories and what that kind of means, and instead give us this pseudo anime slop, lazy titled films of Mandalorian and Grogu and Jedi and Star Wars Starfighter, which that term's not
a video game.
Well, Jedi Starfighter, definitely a video game, but it just sounds like a video game title. But it's not a word that was ever really used in the original trilogy that I can think of. We had squadrons, we had starships, star destroyers, transport vessels, cargo vessels, spice freighters. I don't recall Starfighter being part of the vernacular. And it's so abstract. It's like, well, what does it mean to be a starfighter? Is it a rebel starfighter, a republic starfighter, an imperial starfighter, pirate starfighters? Like, it's very abstract and it's not very clever. And one of the things that I appreciate about Star Wars post the first movie is that The Empire Strikes Back is a great title, because it lists a lot. Return of the Jedi, great title. Attack of the Clones, cheeky but still good. And then Revenge of the Sith, very much poetic. We haven't had anything like that, because like heck, all the Disney titles has been the something, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker. Too many thes. There's other ways you can start a subtitle or a sentence than the, and yeah, it's just pretty sad.
You're not wrong. I agree that the second two movies have the best titles, but it's beyond just the titles that they've lost it today. Talking about this Mandalorian and Grogu movie, that was the thing that caught my eye. I don't know why? Maybe it's the third season just kind of bombarded me with garbage that I'm not excited for. But I looked at this clip and all the stuff from this movie, and I didn't really feel anything, which is weird because I actually liked with a D The Mandalorian fairly well until recently. So, you know, their brand is just not hitting well with me. But let's keep on with the audience real quick, and then we'll move on to the actual topics tonight. Shribbles08, thank you. The word of the day is Smurfs. Freddy got Smurfed, how Stella got her Smurfs back. Fistful of Smurf. Andor got Smurfed, how KK Smurfed Star Wars. Well, if Smurfed is is a replacement for a different word, Smurfed is right. Let's see.
A fistful of Smurf. Yeah.
To Smurf and Diane Dixie.
Oh gosh, dude, where's my Smurf? I mean, they're small, right?
Good cop, bad Smurf.
Yeah.
Stop
Lethal
or my Smurf
Smurf.
will shoot.
Stop or my Smurf will shoot. Oh gosh.
Chasing Smurf.
The Land Before Smurf.
I kind of like that one. Land of the Smurf.
Smurfy by the dozen.
Ah,
I don't even know what the fuck that
12
means.
Angry Smurfs.
There we
Ocean
go.
Smurf. Or Smurfs 11.
Yeah.
It's a Smurf world.
I can't top that.
Well, hey, I got script. All
Yeah,
right.
that's a good one. That got me good.
I don't know if
I like
I've
that.
ever heard Script laugh like that on the show. That
Yeah.
might be a first. Like that was to the point of where like he started coughing.
Yep, it got me right. You got me
Like the
right
laughter
in the evil.
superseded the like involuntary action of the body breathing.
Yep.
Andrew, rule number 1 of this channel is know your audience.
That's
I
amazing.
know who I'm talking to.
That was fantastic.
Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank, thank you very much for being a member for 25 months. Lester says, Andor, Season 2. We all know Homeboy dies anyway. Hashtag where's the suspense? Talk about tone deaf to the nth degree. Marketers with all the all the algorithms still don't know what viewers want. A buzz better than beer. Oh wait. Yeah, Lester, clearly they've missed the mark because I thought once was enough with Rogue One. Like, oh man, we're gonna follow the crew of the people who stole the first Death Star plans. Well, when they announced that movie many years ago, I went, well, we all know they die, so whatever. But they still pulled off a good story. But yeah,
Did we really all know they died? Because there's no reason that they. I mean, we know for the Death Star 2, they all died. Many Bothans died. First Death Star, always left ambiguous.
I mean, yeah, you can say it like that. I left it up as the Imperials aren't as weak as they seem. Like
Correct.
in the first Star Wars movie, they just kill everybody. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
what
Aunt
happened
Beru
to
and
them?
Uncle Owen, or Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, they barely interacted with anybody. Oh, they're burned alive. They're immolated.
They're
So
immolated.
that's why I always assumed everyone's gone.
Leia is the only survivor of her starship. Because what happened to the rest of them? We did see them get marched around with their hands behind their heads, but she's the only one on the Death Star. And R2 says that she's the only one he's found, or she's the only one he has found, which means like the rest were probably executed. Because if they weren't executed and still in jail, then Luke got inadvertently killed them aboard the Death Star.
Well, it said that Senator was it something. Darth Vader said something like, "Tell them all aboard were whatever captured
killed,
or
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, killed or captured."
Send a distress call and tell them that all aboard were killed, and then we have no clue what happened to the rest of that crew. Like we know what happened to Captain Antilles. He was strangled and thrown against a pipe by Darth Vader.
He was supposed to have his arm ripped off.
He had a bad time.
He did. But I mean, yeah, the other part. I mean, the thing is, this also irked me. Is the ship was several transmissions were beamed to the ship, which were the plans. And in the movie that was made, it was on a disc that was handed off individually by rebels in a corridor, chased down by Darth Vader. That doesn't line up.
I agree. See, those are the little inconsistencies with a lot of these movies that always annoy me, but then everyone's just like, and they just kind of oversimplify it and they don't really care. But my rule of thumb is always, if you're adapting or you're making a sequel to something that exists, the original should always be what you're beholden to, because you can't go back and change this thing that's popular enough that you're making a sequel to or a follow-up of. And so little things like that just annoy me more so than other people. Based on that premise, it's like, guys, you don't get to change history. Just accept that you have to play in this sandbox.
Well,
but for some reason, they just keep changing it.
this because I remember when they were struggling with Rogue One, because I did beg my agent at the time to get me to pitch, and I sent in a correction pitch. And one of the gimmicks that I used was that one of the brilliant aspects of sending transmitted signals through space is that they go where they're directed, but there's nothing there when you first send the transmission. You have to wait for the object to come through, and so you have to time it perfectly. And that's what the gimmick was, is that they have to be on this base. They'd have to flip the switch to send the transmissions at the specific time, at the specific area of space where Leia's ship will be. And it has to be done. And it's all in sync and it's all coordinated. It's Ocean's 11 in space. And that would be very tense, because you can throw in so many obstacles for them to prevent them from flipping that switch with a ticking clock counting down from 10 to 0. And they have to get it right to that last second, because if they get it anywhere, if it's too early, they miss it. And if it's too late, they miss them. And that's tension. And that should have been, your third act. It shouldn't have been Darth Vader acting like a freaking, henchman grunt chopping down rebels. That's beneath him. He's Darth Vader. He doesn't fight the plebs. He fights Obi-Wan Kenobi. He fights Yoda or Luke Skywalker, whoever. He fights someone that could actually challenge him. He doesn't go after the small fry. He's got stormtroopers for that. I mean, who did he kill? Who did he kill when he's killed more Imperials under his command than he's killed rebels, because he doesn't care.
No, he doesn't care about the rules. Yeah, he was specifically, for the most part, a Jedi hunter.
Yeah,
he helped wipe out, or kind of wipe out the Jedi, right?
Yeah, I liked it better when he wiped out the Jedi, as opposed to he missed a few hundred, maybe 1,000 or so.
I could buy okay, maybe there's half a dozen that managed to escape his grasp. The galaxy is a really large place.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, there has to be at least enough Force users who were at least strong enough in the Force that they knew how to hide their presence and seclude themselves, or there were those who just weren't at that time strong enough in the Force where it was really much of a blip on the radar.
Right.
Okay, fine. But once we start getting into this thing that Disney is like, hey, maybe a few dozen more survived, maybe 5 dozen more survived over here. It's like, okay, guys, what you're doing right now is not only annoying in regard to the overall story of, the Jedi were wiped out, right? That's what we were told in in the original trilogy, but you're also making Vader look bad at his job.
Yeah, exactly. Dark Lord of the Sith. Let so many Jedi get away.
Right? It's like, I don't. You're getting kind of less and less intimidating right now as we go.
Yeah, it always goes to the more you know about the story you like, the lesser it becomes, because those little nuggets of mystery are what make your mind work. Like Star Wars is full of them. What's the Clone Wars? Oh, what is this? What is that? Don't ever, not knowing what those things are, at least for me, is always better, because it keeps your mind wondering what could these things be. And, I don't like to know more about that. So
there are some stories where you just need enough and not everything. And and I will say this, because of Attack of the Clones and that prequel trilogy, a lot of Star Wars fans have now inferred that the reason so many people dislike droids is because of that war, where beforehand, the whole reason the bartender says we don't serve their kind in here is droids don't drink or eat. They take up space.
They can't make money on them.
Yeah, they can't do it. So they're taking up space in a crowded bar. It's like, get out of here. I need the space for organic people that buy stuff.
Yeah.
But now it's like, nope, we have a discrimination to all droids. It's like,
all right. As if it wasn't a completely different set of droids during the Clone Wars that there was the issue, right? It was the Trade Federation. So it's like, come on. That's stupid.
Wait, that's what's stupid from those movies?
That's a skip.
Well, listen. All right, we're not going down that rabbit trail. Let's not go down that rabbit trail. Let's appreciate the wonderful chatters and super chatters.
Oh, we can go down that path. Folks, press 1 in the chat if you want to go down that path.
Man.
So Georgian,
Jeff
thank you
just
very
hit the
much.
F it button.
I need a fucking button. Shajorjan says Netflix, we're adapting Kakenguri. Call it bet and completely missed the point of the characters. Me, the Japanese porn parody, did a better job than you. Wait, what? What did Netflix
I don't know
shit the
nothing
bed
about
with?
any of that.
I need to go back and watch this because
I got nothing.
I
All
feel
right,
like I
man.
missed a good story here.
Right, it's the story. Right? Did you buy Playboy for the articles?
No, I didn't buy.
Some of them
Playboy.
were
They stopped
good, but
printing
the
that
women
shit.
were way hotter.
I mean, they do have issues of Playboy that have James Bond stories in them.
Of
but
all
I've
the
never-
people I expected to say something like that script, you were probably at the top of that list.
Oh, yeah, I like reading, and I like beautiful women, especially
Yeah.
women that irrefutably look like women. That's the best
Yeah.
part. It's like, yep, there's no doubt in my loins that you're a lady.
Yeah, you don't want to live with that confusion.
Exactly.
No.
Oh, I have to look into this. Let me take a screenshot of this because I'm just curious to how bad Netflix shit the bed after I've been watching all this damn anime. Maybe I can watch something and laugh at it or cry about it. I don't know. I have to know the series to form an opinion. TLJ Screwjob says, by the way, TLJ Screwjob, I'm glad you're catching us on your 3-hour differential. Didn't care about Rogue One, no Kyle Katarn, no Jan Ors, morally gray rebels. Like if they made a movie about how Gandalf found Eomer and the others, who cares?
Yeah, I mean that's true. I like the Kyle Katarn Dark Forces games. They were good.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I like Old Republic more, but I've made no bones about how biased I am towards the Old Republic.
Well, I need to go back and play Dark Forces. It's been
It's a good game.
Yeah.
It's been decades.
Kyle Katarn is like one of the most beloved Star Wars protagonists outside of the original trilogy.
Yep.
Well,
And
he's
he's
got a
got
new
way-
figure.
Yeah, he's also got more stories than Dash Rendar. And Dash Rendar felt like a gimmick at first until he kind of really got into the Shadows of the Empire. And you're like, oh wait, this guy's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I like Dash Render. That's who's getting the figure, by the way. I misspoke. But yeah, they're really going hard in the paint for Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah. Are we going to see a live action Prince Caesar then?
Would you care at this point?
Not at this point, no. Like if it was 1997, I'd be all down for that. But nah.
Yeah, it's a different time. It's a different world, a different galaxy, some would even say. But let's talk about what Andor is bringing to the table real quick. Because, folks, it's one of those situations where it's not bad, but it's also more of what was before. So if you didn't like season 1, this isn't going to magically change your opinion on that. If you're a fan that has been burned by Disney, Star Wars, and rightly so, you've sat through some shit. I've sat through some shit. Believe me, at this
We've
point, I
all
do it
sat
for
through
you
some
guys.
shit.
Yeah, and some of us are still sitting with it, like Kelly Marie Tran and all that Rose Tico stuff she's been going on about in the news. I wish her the best, but
Well, I mean,
Come on,
she
lady.
appreciates the role, but yeah, she's happy to be doing other stuff now, and that's good.
well, that's all she's gonna get because that role went
And
nowhere.
those other roles aren't probably going to take an otherwise lovely young woman look like a freaking potato sack.
Yeah,
But guys, it's our fault.
Yeah, it's our fault. Yeah, that is allegedly the story, right? That is
Yeah.
what we were told.
yes, we were all Ryan Johnson wanting to uglify her so that she'd be low self-esteem, so he could just prey on her emotions for his own personal
Mhm.
gain. Because that's always a successful tactic to neg a girl.
Right? Brilliant. Good job. 10 out of 10. No notes.
I guess I should do something with all those Rose Tico figures. Folks, should we donate those to charity and, donate to a cause that Kelly Marie Tran will be happy with?
Well, donating the figures to charity is kind of an insult to the charity.
I was about to say you're better off like just taking them to the recycling dump or whatever if you can get
I would
anything out of
say
that.
set up a charity where you're going to do crazy things to the toys for a certain dollar amount, and then that dollar amount you could donate to something on behalf of Kelly Marie Tran.
There you go.
Thing.
Like,
Maybe I should do
find
that.
different crazy ways to destroy the toys,
Yeah.
and then donate all the proceeds to whatever, charity of chat or YouTube members or Patreon members' choice. I don't know. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't know how any of this works.
No, you don't at all. At all.
I know I don't.
So, in terms of Andor season 2, so like I was saying a moment ago, folks, if you're expecting all of a sudden for this to be a whole brand new show, it's not going to be. Because remember, this thing was critically praised. This was the show that the quote unquote level headed Star Wars fans like to. Oh, we can all agree upon that Andor is the best, right?
Well, no, we didn't. We really didn't, because you had, and this is what it comes down to, because and Script and I butted heads on this a number of times, where you can have something that objectively, by all of the quote unquote rules, does everything mostly right, and on a lot of measures is actually a good piece of media, good piece of storytelling, but to what the supposed target audience is, they're not interested. And that's what Andor season 1 was, to my best determination from everything that I've been hearing, which is a lot of people will be like, even people who usually just completely shit on Star Wars 24/7. Each new Star Wars project that comes out is the newest, worst Star Wars ever, right? Those same people, they said, yeah, Andor was actually pretty good. Okay, but nobody watched it. Nobody was interested. The premise wasn't something that most Star Wars fans were interested. That doesn't mean it's not a good show. It doesn't mean it's not a good piece of storytelling. It's just not what a lot of people, or I guess in this case, the majority of people who should have been the target audience, had any desire to watch. And my guess is that based on the creative team remaining the same, season 2 will probably be the same. People who loved Andor season 1 are still going to love the show. People who had no interest in it, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I think a lot of people today get backed into a corner in terms of online criticism, because we live in this world where you got to do positive reacts only, or unless you're a hater, and if you're a hater, your opinion isn't valid because you don't like the thing that people are paying for advertising.
Right, or if you usually trash something because it's genuinely bad, and all of a sudden you praise something because they put out something that's a diamond in a rough, and all of a sudden they put out something that was actually half decent, all of a sudden you're called a shill, and people don't know how to intellectually multitask.
Correct.
I love how last year I was like, hey, X-Men 97's pretty solid, but people got mad.
You were praising. I watched every single one of your episode reviews. I still haven't watched the show. I watched every single one of your episode reviews, and you were praising it like all the way up until like the very end, and you were like, I didn't like how they ended it.
Yeah,
and that was it.
Part at the end.
Otherwise, like, you praised that entire series.
And like Spider-Man, the one that was on Disney Plus, I didn't review it because I didn't think there was an audience for the review here on the channel, but it also wasn't that bad of a cartoon. Was it spectacular good? No. Was it 94 good? No.
No.
Was it even as good as the original show?
No.
So did you say that it is a far from a superior Spider-Man cartoon?
Definitely far from a superior Spider-Man cartoon. But the thing is, nothing that they did in that cartoon felt like a betrayal of the core of what the character was trying to achieve.
No, that's the part that it's kind of a losing battle to discuss some of this online, because everyone you gotta just rail on it the loudest so people can know that you're virtue signaling how much you hate something. It's like, I'm the first to tell you, like, I don't like Miles Morales, or I don't like Paul, or I don't like all this crap for Spider-Man, but I do like the character. And, the Osborns are a different color. But, like, Spider-Man is more Spider-Man than he's been in decades.
Yeah, since Spectacular, I would say, yeah.
Well, I mean, the bar is pretty low because it's MCU Iron Boy. So, I mean, you can't get much worse than that in my eyes.
But it's not really MCU Iron Boy anymore, because this is an alternate reality where it's not the MCU. Like, Spider-Man gets his bite from a radioactive spider, but then he kind of gets help from Norman Osborn, but then it goes away. I don't know how to describe it. It's like they over-engineer how you get from, like, point A to point B. We can't just have a thing where he, like, has his suit, it has the powers and the webbing, and they're like, oh yeah, you already know the story. Here's the story. They spend like half of it over explaining it, kind of like with Andor. They're over explaining.
They do a lot of exposition
or
or like pseudo exposition where it's not exposition in the literal sense, but there's just way too much that's clearly just being told to you rather than being shown to you.
For Spider-Man or Andor?
Yes.
Well, no, there's a lot more showing in the Spider-Man than you expect.
You know, if this show were to come out and this culture war stuff never had happened, this probably would be talked about more positively than the 2003 Spider-Man cartoon. It would be like, it would just be kind of like oh, they did the thing, they made it different, or they tried to make it different, and I don't really like it, so I'll move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like with this, where the over-engineering point that I made a moment ago. It's like over-engineered to get you from point A to point B.
Right.
And that is kind of the selling point with most modern entertainment. It's how do we just kind of rehash the same stories, or how do we keep you like, because what it is, folks, is it's just the same story of the first Star Wars, how to destroy the Death Star. This is just a little offshoot on how to make it quote unquote richer. But
right.
If like, I don't need to see Mon Mothma's husband having gambling debts to make the Empire, or the rebellion more complicated. Sometimes I just want a black and a white story.
Yeah.
And
I want to point something out real quick in the chat. Pokemon fan 18, shout out to you. Thanks for being here. He says, oh gosh, where did it go?
Is it we all know what's going to happen?
There we go. Yeah, we all know what was going to happen to Andor in Rogue One. So, and I remember this being an argument very consistently when Rogue One came out of like, why do I care about this character? We already know he's going to die. Well, yes, but that doesn't automatically mean that you can't care about the character. The fact that we don't care about the character by the end of the movie, or even by the halfway point, is actually like, that's a note and a testament to the quality of the writing. Right? Like, a good writer could have endeared that character to us, even though we knew ultimately, yeah, this fool's probably going to die by the end of the movie. But they could have made that impactful if they had written his character in such a way that endeared the character to us, so that we did care, even though we knew what was going to happen. That's not like a new thing in storytelling. That's been done.
People cared more about K2SO than they did Andor, and I would much rather have had that show.
I cared more about the blind dude.
Yeah.
Right? That was like a pseudo force user. Yeah. I was like, dude, like, this is the coolest character in the whole freaking movie. And I cared about him when he died. I was like, man, really? Like, the only guy I actually gave a crap about.
Yeah.
But that's
just more Felicity Jones in tight pants because she had a really great set of legs and butt. So
that's okay. That's fair. You know what? No one could accuse script of not being a blue-blooded male, right? But the fact of the matter is, the writers did not do a good job at all of endearing us to those characters. You can still make people care about characters who they suspect or know flat out are going to die. We could know their fate, but you can still make us give a damn about it. I didn't, because you didn't make me.
No, they didn't make me. I guess it's like this is such a defeatist way to discuss anything, but it's almost useless or a futile effort for me to care about all these characters, because we know who lives, who dies, and what's going to go down. Like, let's say, for example, Stellan Skarsgård character survives. Do you really give a shit that he's hiding in the background of the Star Wars trilogy? No, you don't. You really don't. Like, a lot of these questions are going to be rhetorical. Like, do you really care that this random Imperial officer that had a bug up her ass is out there, in the ether while Luke Skywalker's doing his own thing? No, you don't at all. Like, they're trying to take background characters during this epic. Like, and I still believe this. Maybe this is the optimism in me, the childlike optimism. But when I think of Star Wars, just the first movie, I think of this big epic story, one of the greatest stories ever told. And there's a lot of goodwill that movie carries with it, even nearly 50 years later. And Disney knows that. So what they do is they just try to pull an Aunt Edna and glom onto that thing and just keep reminding you of that thing in the past. And how they remind you is to tell you a story with such inconsequential characters and actions that you find yourself wasting time. Like I did watch the first episode. I almost did doze off, and it wasn't very late in the night. I'm trying to be as objective as possible because people, I can tell based on the numbers, you guys want a real take and you want to laugh about it. And I'll tell you this, I'm going to give you a real take when I watch all 3 episodes, but this show isn't Acolyte bad. This show isn't Skeleton Crew boring, but it's just the same old shit from the first season. And if you think that's great, then you're going to like this show. I don't know where I rank Andor. Like, I like the early Mandalorian stuff quite a bit. I liked it a lot. I invested in action figures. I have that's all I bought. I didn't buy anything else. I bought a couple action figures. But at the end of the day, I liked that. This is better than, let's say, Obi-Wan or Ahsoka, which is getting a second season. All of these other things. Like, I guess by process of elimination, Andor would be my second favorite Disney Plus Star Wars show. But that doesn't mean it's, in my opinion, this great thing. It's just not that terrible. And so if that is the kind of review that instills hope because of how low the bar has been set for Star Wars, then go out of your way to watch it. But if you are content with not consuming Disney Star Wars and you just want to watch my videos talking about it, well, then I'll give you enough context where you can follow the story as well. But
so it sounds a lot like what Disney has been doing. I mean, I guess the best analogy I could come up with is they're treating every potential property like the traditional line of Star Wars action figures, where every character in Star Wars got an action figure, and therefore they think every character that got an action figure needs a show or movie.
Yeah.
Does that feel like that might be hitting the target, like in dead center there? Because
yes,
it's like, oh, we got an Andor show. Why? Because we got he's a supporting character or main character or supporting character in the Rogue One thing, and he's got an action figure. Well, okay, we have this other guy that looks a lot like Boba Fett, which was a really popular action figure and had only like 7 minutes of screen time across 2 movies. But we're going to do a whole TV show on a clone of him, on a variation of him.
Right.
And then we're going to do another, we're going to bring in another character that looks a lot like Yoda, but isn't Yoda. It's a baby. And it just feels all like action figure stuff, like at this point in time for me.
What Disney's doing right now is, and it's pretty clear, right? Because we keep seeing all these new spinoffs come out, is they're treating each show as though its entire purpose after a certain point becomes like, let's see how many more spinoffs we can get out of this show, right? Like it's like watching gerbils multiply, right? You've got like, here's Mandalorian,
but all of a sudden you got 40.
All of a sudden, yeah, right. It's like cut off one, 2 more will take his place, right? It's the freaking Disney is Hydra right now when it comes to the Star Wars spinoffs. That's what it is, because now we've got Ahsoka, and one could make the argument maybe that like after a certain point in the Clone Wars animation, people did actually want maybe a show that was focused on her at some point. I don't know. I couldn't really say. But right now, Disney's live actions just feel like, hey, how many more live action spinoffs can we get? Like, what we're going to start this show, but by like episode 3, we already have like 1 or 2 characters in mind that we kind of want to push more additional individual spinoffs out of, right? And it's like, your purpose and your goal should just be to tell a good story set in this universe and let people decide if they give enough of a crap about the characters in this show to want another show that's about those other characters. Like, how about you try and make people care about the show that's airing right now, then worry about whether or not people give a damn about the other characters, right? People will let you know. Fans will let you know. If they like the side characters, you'll hear about it.
You're not wrong.
I know.
Well, you're also a very humble man, which is what I appreciate
Always.
about you.
Always. I mean, I grew up watching The Rock. Okay.
You exude humility. It's your middle name.
Actually, okay. Well, I'm not gonna actually say my middle name.
Yeah, you don't
but-
need to share
It
That's
begins
none
with a
y'all's
Z.
business, but
It's Esteban, if anyone wanted to know.
listen, just because the last name's Rodriguez doesn't mean the middle name is Hispanic as well. All right, and it's actually
Esteban.
not.
You got it on the first guess. That's what
It's
he's trying to discover. It's like
that would
he
actually
knows.
be more funny, and I kind of want to make that my headcanon, but it's not.
well, it's mine now. You're officially,
That's fine.
unofficially Esteban.
At the Rippaverse, our Rippaverse team lore is that I'm actually like an 87-year-old Mexican man. My age changes week to week. It's kind of funny.
Well, I don't want to fight that headcanon, so I won't.
So
But-
it's like
Appreciate that.
Benjamin L. Button, then, I guess. Because
Digsby says Gloria Estefan. No, one, she's banging. Two, like she has some of the most catchy songs ever. Just saying. Anybody that if you know, you know. Okay, if you listen to Gloria
She's
Estefan in the
not Paula
90s.
Abdul good though. I just wanted to see if you'd have an expression to that.
I can't
just-
trust anybody.
You know, you learn something about people every time you interact with them. And I've learned a lot about you tonight, Andrew. So thank you for
You're
keeping
welcome.
us on our toes each and every week. See, folks, if you wanted to hear more about Andor, which you can ask right now, please do ask, because I've been reading some of your comments on concepts of Star Wars shows that you'd like to see. And, you know, I just would like to watch really out there, higher concept things that don't necessarily have to fit. Like, we don't have to make a show about 6 weeks before The Empire Strikes Back took place where we have to know where all the characters are. It's like, yeah, you know, just make a show sometime after the fall of the Death Star and do something crazy like, you know, a Star Wars style barbarian show. Or maybe do like a whole episode of a Mandalorian where it's silent and he's just hunting a creature. Like, try Black Mirror style shit with Star Wars. Like, really go dark, because to keep the galaxy and the universe and this world interesting, it's got to really be all ages. And all ages doesn't mean, you know, hard R, explicit, you know, sex in Star Wars. Nobody really wants to see it go in any franchise. You know, like, you might think
Star Wars isn't a franchise that needs that. That's for sure.
Honestly, even James Bond isn't a franchise where you need to see it go in. Like, it's just
No.
you know, the illusion, the idea, it's far more graphic than it could.
Tosses
possibly
a
be
hot babe
shown.
onto the bed, falls down on top of her, screen goes black, wakes up the next morning, he's already got a martini in hand, right? Like, good enough.
Or twist, he wakes up and she's dead, and he spends the rest of the movie trying to figure out what happened to her.
Or you could do that.
Yeah.
Hey Jeff, you should write a Bond parody.
No,
Just
I'm waiting till the public domain
Yeah.
character, or he enters public domain in what, 2035? Either way, when that happens,
Oh,
I'm
at
just
least
gonna
it's
write
not far
one.
away.
Yeah, I'm just gonna write a James Bond story and put it out there. Like, hey, you know, that way I can legally do it instead of trying to make a parody. Because I have an idea for an action character. People are like, "Oh, you haven't talked much about comics." It's because I've been taking care of some business stuff. But I have all these ideas mapped out. I'm working on a cover for a publisher now, and then it's off to the races with other ideas. But in about 2 weeks, folks, I will have the Wokebusters website built, because I will have the Indiegogo finished, and then we can ship everything from the remainder of the books. So there we go. Everybody wants a copy. I've been getting good reviews, which is nice. People are going out of their way to message me. I even got contacted from a company about a Stealing Solo sequel. Like, a company,
Cool.
not just like somebody that was like, "Hey, I liked your
For
book."
real?
Yeah,
That's
for
awesome.
real. Yeah, I woke up to that news the other day and I went, I was like, this is not April Fool's Day. I know I'm not being trolled. And I responded back, and the company responded back, and they sent me their press release kit and all this. I was like, okay, I guess I'm in a better place than I thought I was. So it's time
That's
to move
funny.
forward. Yeah,
I dig
it's kinda
that.
exciting.
That's awesome.
You know what else is
Yeah.
funny is that you could do your James Bond story now if you just publish it as a source in Canada, because he's public domain up here.
Well, I
How
guess
is he
I'm gonna put
public
all of my
domain up
life
there,
plans
but
on
not
hold.
elsewhere? How does
Well,
that work?
it's actually only the public domain. It's actually in most of the rest of the world, excluding the United States, just because the rights in the United States were renewed an extra few years prior, with some of the Disney changing of property rights laws on literature. But in Canada, we didn't change them, so James Bond is currently public domain right now. So if you want to, you could publish original James Bond books to be primarily distributed and sold in Canada. However, there's nothing preventing you from buying from Canada and them shipping it to you without violating the IP.
Well, damn it.
That's
Now I
something.
know what I want to do for fun.
How about that? That's very interesting. That was information that I didn't know I needed, and I'm kind of glad that I have it now.
Yes.
So if I randomly show up with like some new cool toys, folks, it's because I wrote my James Bond book. That's what
yeah, pretty much. I mean, the thing is, like, I've had a couple of colleagues that are producers and directors reach out to me, like, we want to do some James Bond stuff, and we want to do it in Canada because we don't have to worry about Eon or any of those things because it's public domain up there. And I was like, okay, great. And it's been really hard. Like, the funny part is that getting the stories ready and getting the rights is easy as hell. It's getting the money to do it. That's always been a pain in the butt.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
Folks, you learn a little bit about how to make entertainment each and every week here on the channel. All we ask in return is some thumbs up and help us hit some of our goals. And
remember, if you like, I was trying to do this, but someone already beat me to it, that there's people that are publishing the original novels, not the altered ones, up here in Canada, so you can get them without the censored stuff, as they tend to be in other areas.
I can't believe we have to worry about censored James Bond novels for sensitivity reasons.
Well, that's one of the reasons why they did it. The other part is that's under a new copyright now.
Huh.
Oh.
So what's fascinating is that copyright is technically brand new and active. And it's also a little bit of a legal issue, because if we wanted to adapt, say, Moonraker and make it a legitimate adaptation, not what the film adaptation was, we can do that in Canada, but we might face a complaint of cease and desist or something, because they have a brand new publication of it with censored works. So now then it would have to go to the courts to determine, well, is this valid, or is this a type of legal loophole to retain the rights of this story, which has gone public domain in Canada and most of Europe.
Right.
So it'd be up to a judge who hopefully has a rational opinion of it to see, you are usurping this very law here, using and the impact on your public on the work that you've censored is not significant enough to make it excluded from the public domain laws.
Interesting. Huh. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's the same tactic. So like, even though like Superman and Batman are kind of up for public domain, they're technically not going to be, because new works have been published with those classic costumes. And that blurs the line as to whether or not, if you are doing a public domain Batman story of that original costume that he had in 1939, it's identical to something that was published in Batman Year Zero by Scott Snyder, and it's also a couple other stuff. And even with Steamboat Willie,
that was literally just about, get out of my head, which I was literally just about to bring up Mickey Mouse.
They did a few cartoons with that exact model in there. And oddly enough, the only way certain parodies were able to get away, certain other properties were able to get away with using Steamboat Willie is, number one, they used a parody by way of horror, and they also altered enough of the design so that it could still be distinguished. And also, parody laws do save a lot. So a lot of trouble. Like if you've got something that's a parody, it's pretty much 100% protected.
That's why I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally why I put also the word parody in all my titles, so no one can ever mistake Wokebusters for the real Ghostbusters.
You should parody a WWE story.
It's very sad that we are at an age where we have to classify an obvious parody as a parody, so that people actually recognize it. And that they can't pick up the idea of parody, farce, satire. It's pretty sad.
When I worked my last con, people thought the Wokebusters logo wasn't like adjacent to the Ghostbusters fan club. And so I had people all weekend long come up to me and go, "Oh, I got my scavenger hunt card." And I would be like, "Oh, cool." And I would tell them like, "But I'm not a part of the scavenger hunt." And then I would tell them about my book. And then if they wanted to buy it, then I would, tell them thanks. But no, I put them on everything because people are oblivious to certain shit. But, it's still fun to make parodies. I like it. It's sad that where the parody shines the greatest is like those Axel Braun ones that everybody compares the real movies to. It's like, I guess porn is like where the truest form of art always is? Question mark.
I think it's only being revered because they make costumes as close to the comics or whatever as possible. Maybe there's nothing good about them outside of the, I guess, evocative nature of it. They're not good. They're quite bad. But hey, at least they got like shapely women in superhero costumes that are very reflective of the books they're parodying or the stories they're parodying. So, that's something.
Hollywood, take note. That's all we want. So maybe you could lower the budgets. That's honestly what I want. I want time. I want time for these movies to look interesting again. But
yeah.
After the Fantastic Four trailer dropped last week, I just don't know. I mean, we're a week or two out from Thunderbolts, which I still think looks like an absolute shit show.
I forgot that was even coming out.
What's crazy is that the Brian Harbor's character, whose name is escaping me at the moment, he's
Red Guardian.
The Red Guardian. He's got an ad campaign for Thunderbolts that is actually quite brilliant, but it also goes back to the core problem of what Marvel has become post Joss Whedon, which is that they're superhero films with a very strong sense of comedy running through them, and they're basically replacing our comedy films. And now we're losing. We have a different level of fun that's being integrated into the MCU that wasn't really required. Like Tony Stark was the quick-witted talking type of guy that works. Spider-Man is a nice little parallel of that too. He has some good singers.
Spidey is supposed to be like quippy, punny, and obnoxious. Like,
exactly.
He's supposed to be like you roll your eye. Like Tony Stark is supposed to be funny and in like he's
funny
a prick.
and arrogant. And then Peter Parker is doing it out of fear and cope. and there's a charm to it. And that's all you really need. But now it's like every character gets a moment. And also like the color timing on the Thunderbolts with the trailers doesn't look very appealing. Fantastic Four, I'm curious about it. I knew when they cast what's her name for Silver Surfer's, like, yeah, they're not going to they're good at motion capture, but they're not going to make her look like a hot chick. They're going to keep her figure. I mean, nice hips and legs, but come on, man. Like, geez, it just brings me back to the time when
if you look at her from the side, it's
when my 12-year-old goddaughter was complaining to me that she wasn't going through puberty fast enough, and I said, "Talk to your mother. Don't talk to me about that."
I'm the wrong person.
And she was being teased because they said they're calling me mosquito tits, and I was like, "Oh my god, nothing changes. Don't tell me this. Go away." And here we have this 30-year-old actress with that basically who feels like she's still developing puberty upstairs, and I'm like, it's a CGI model. You have the one-off in the comics. Guess what? You would believe Norrin Radd would sacrifice himself to make her live so that he could probably come back to her after he spends his time as Galactus' herald. Like, you could understand that. I don't believe that woman a type of person that would go after that woman must really appreciate her personality over anything else. Which, I'm body shaming.
That's the real moral of the story.
I am body shaming here, but my God, it's just tits sell tickets.
Yes, they do.
And for crying out loud, just like, we don't need to see them fully exposed, but just give us a nice silhouette. I mean, this is it goes a long way, because we're not necessarily going like full blown fantasy with our pants down behind our ankles. We're just like, wow, that is a beautiful silhouette of a woman. I completely understand why, we want to look at her and
Oh,
see her. And
we're
now
men.
because
It's
of Power of
primarily
Thought, like, he's
a
gonna really
male
do damage.
dominated.
Yeah.
It's a male dominated medium. We want shapely, curvy. They don't all have to be hourglass, but like one that looks, I don't know, like an adult female.
Yes, and women want that too because they'd like to look at that and be like, "Damn, she worked out." Like you could have used Sydney Sweeney, you could have used Anne Hathaway, you could have used Sofia Vergara, you could have used anyone that is known for their sex appeal.
I really liked Sofia Vergara when I was younger. I still like
do.
Sofia Vergara.
She's still
Actually,
like,
it's
yeah.
not past tense, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Exactly. You have it all at your fingertips, and you don't do it. I mean, listen, Jessica Alba, who a lot of people think is Latin, she's not. She's like Dutch Irish or something. But I mean, she was cast as the Invisible Girl, and people showed up to those two terrible movies.
Well, they also cast, like, she was considered. I was in high school when that first one came out, I think.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gosh.
That'd been what, 2005?
Yeah. And like Jessica Alba was at the time considered like the hottest woman in the world by a lot of people. Whether or not you agree or I agree, like I know I at least went to school with a lot of people that thought she was, and that certainly put butts in the seats. You can't argue that, right? Despite the fact that those movies were not very good.
No, I mean, that's the other part too. Fantastic Four has this track record where it doesn't translate well outside
They're
of the
0 for 3.
Officially 0 for 3.
Actually 0 for 4, right?
Well, the Roger Corman one was the best one they've made, but it's not ever had an official release.
Yeah, it didn't have an actual release. That's right.
And it was actually like the best one, even though it had a little bit of a sappiness to it here and there, especially like when Ben Grimm asks if the storms can come out to play in a childish voice. I'm like, that's kind of weird. But it had one of the best it had one of the best practical makeups of the Thing ever. And also the voice. I thought the voice was better there because Michael Chiklis's sounded not normal. I mean, he was not supposed to sound normal everything, but just sounded like it was more of nails against a chalkboard type of voice as opposed to a gravelly, like, distorted, because everything about his body, with the exception to a few of the organs inside, are nothing but rock.
I mean, if anything, his voice should sound gravelly.
Yeah, like this new guy doesn't have a gravelly voice at all. I mean, and I can kind of look past that because he looks like the Thing brought to life.
Well, I was going to say, like, there were a lot of people that were complaining. I say this as somebody who I'm not really interested in the movie, to be honest. If it's a genuinely good movie, then I want it to succeed because Fantastic Four is Marvel's first family and needs a win. And this might be kind of one of those measuring points where it's like, if they can make Fantastic Four work, they might be able to start making other things work again, right? But I have... Everybody here knows I'm not a black pillar. I usually try to look on the upside of things. I'm not jazzed about really any of the castings, to be honest. Visually, overall, like the visual direction of the film, I think looks fantastic. I like that retro futuristic style that they're going for, right? The one thing I will push back on a lot of people with was when they dropped that trailer and we got to look at Ben Grimm, the Thing, and they're like, oh, look how stupid he looks. I'm like, bros, they ripped that right out of the comics.
Yeah, it's Kirby.
They ripped that straight out of Kirby's panels. Like, I could talk a lot of crap about the other castings for this film, but I can't talk crap about the design for the Thing. You could say, oh, that's not my preferred look for him, but okay, they didn't just pull a bad design out of their ass. They pulled it out of Kirby's panels. So take it up with him.
And if I do?
Good. I mean, good on you. If you're being intellectually honest, that's what matters. Right? There are a lot of fantastic historical artists that, contributed untold amounts to the comic book medium that I'm not particularly fond of, but I appreciate their contributions and what they did for the medium of comic books.
Yeah. I mean, way to out intellectual me. I'm just joking. I don't. It's too late here to get like
I
that.
can't
But
do that, Jeff.
I mean, not on the art, not on the comic creation. No, I just, like I said, I'm up late on a Tuesday. I'm not not in the mood for that.
You had a long weekend, is what you had.
Yeah, too long of a weekend. Some say it hasn't ended. I'm saying it
Yeah.
hasn't ended. I want it to end. TLJ Screwjob, thank you. In regards to Gandalf finding Éomer, the opening scene of Star Wars has managed to steal secret plans of the Empire's ultimate weapon, aka not focusing on that shit.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
TLJ Screwjob also says actually they probably would have effed up Kyle and Jan.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure they would have. Like, well, look. Now I know we got to move on, but they have taken things from the EU pretty consistently and like tweaked them, twist them, turn them over, flipped them upside down,
Butchered
and
them.
done their own version. Yeah, butchered them, done their own version of things that were already a thing in the EU and tried to present it as a unique idea. No, it was an idea that had already been done. It was just done better than what you did. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I don't have any faith in them, to be honest. They're
You
even
should.
their own characters.
Right?
Well, the weird thing is, it's like even with their own characters that they put so much stock into, they have completely abandoned. They have one character that they have pushed through with, and his associated characters of the Mandalorian. But
Mhm.
you know,
It's the only one received a real positive response
yeah, but
for a little bit.
it's us, the racist bigots,
Yeah.
the homophobes, the ones that kept Kelly Marie Tran from being out, and what? Who gives a shit? Like nobody. I think that these people give this invisible boogeyman of the audience far too much power, or at least paint them in a way that no fan, no matter how much they have a distaste for these movies, actually think.
They
It's
have
like,
to invent the scapegoat.
yeah,
Jeff. That's what it is. They're fabricating the scapegoat. They have to figure out, and they do it prior to the release of something because they not I'm not going to say that they go into it knowing something's going to fail, but they have a lot of times it at least feels like they have the excuse, they have the scapegoat prepared, where it's like, oh, well, we're going to default to this if this doesn't make the ratings at all. And if people universally don't like it and are not watching it, those that do, right? And it's like, I don't know how to help you there. Like, you're just defaulting to attacking what should be your target demographic. That doesn't math to me. The math ain't mathin'.
Yep. That
No.
arithmetic is
It's not arithmeticing.
no, that's right.
well, the numbers don't lie. They spell disaster for you at sacrifice. Sorry, wrong medium. This isn't wrestling anymore.
Wrestling references can work in any medium, Jeff.
Yeah, but I've watched so much wrestling over the last weekend. Jesus.
I bet you have.
Yeah, WrestleMania was it like 18 hours of WrestleMania alone?
Do they still do a NXT night before WrestleMania?
Yep. I
Okay.
didn't watch that.
Oh, okay. I went to one of those when they had a WrestleMania in, was it Santa Clara? Was it 2016, 17, 15? Yeah.
I was there. Yeah, I flew out that Saturday.
Yeah, I did fan access. I got to meet Bad News Barrett.
Was he nice?
He was actually super nice.
Well,
But he was
I find
cool
that-
because like that's my favorite version of him. Like Bad News Barrett was like, all right, this is awesome.
I'm
This dude's
afraid
great.
I've got some bad news.
Bad news. That was great. I loved that time.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty awesome. But anything else you guys want to ask about Andor, the internet's favorite mid show that we like to talk about like it's high art?
So is Stellan Skarsgård in the first 3 episodes or 2 episodes that you saw, and was he
Yes.
cool?
He is the same. The one thing I don't like, I might have missed the whole mark on Star Wars, but when I think of like the Rebel Alliance, I don't think of like mildly effeminate French freedom resistance fighters from these like old movies. Like, that's what I'm kind of getting from like Stellan Skarsgård with his like oddly effeminate jacket and the way it's just like
the disguise he puts on. Yeah.
it's just like I didn't really think of the Rebel Alliance as a bunch of like uppity rich people like fighting the system. I thought it was a little different. I was a kid when I first got into the world of Star Wars, so I never really put that much thought into it. But it's just really weird to listen to like rich elite people sit and talk about how we're gonna take down the Empire. I don't know. It's not as exciting.
Machiavellian, right?
Yeah, it's very Machiavellian.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I mean, I like the actress that they have for playing Mon Mothma, but she doesn't look like Mon Mothma. She doesn't sound like Mon Mothma. She doesn't have that presence. She reminds me more of like J.K. Rowling, actually, pretending to play Mon Mothma.
That's funny.
Yep. Yeah, I get that vibe 100%. What I don't get is that when we try to show the Empire, I'm not saying that they're trying to show the Empire in this gray area, but when you try to humanize the bad guy to a point that they're humanizing the villain across all of Star Wars, it takes away that magical good versus evil. Like,
well, there's a line, right? You could get away with that with maybe a character or two, and then maybe that character becomes a defector, right? We've had this happen multiple times.
That's usually how it would work, is that
that's how you care about that person, right? But when you start to apply that morally gray thing to just the entire entity, that's when it's like, okay, like I'm apparently not watching a show or a movie about good versus evil anymore in this space opera setting. I'm watching two groups of assholes like go at each other's throats and who's going to kill the other first, and that's not interesting to me. I want somebody to root for. It's one of the reasons why I wasn't able to get into Game of Thrones, and maybe I'm black sheep hot take. I couldn't get into Game of Thrones because there would be a couple of characters that I would like, but overall, a lot of them were just really shitty people. And I was just like, there's not many characters here that's just kind of a genuine hero. Like, you got Jon Snow, maybe one or two others, but it's like, man, I'm sorry. I like having some more defined delineation between who I should be rooting for and who I'm not. Right? And right now, Star Wars is being treated like Game of Thrones in that regard, not in the violence, obviously, or the sex, or the incest, or any of that other stuff. But as far as just like, we don't know, or at least it feels like the writers don't know who we're supposed to think is the good guy and who's the bad guy. Oh, well, maybe the rebels are really bad people too. Well, you're certainly writing them like they kind of are.
Yeah, and that's more of that deconstruction that I don't want to see. I just don't know why they think we want to see this. Is it to give a sense of intelligence that just really reeks of arrogance more than anything else? There are so few things that are as black and white. Even the prequels, like the Trade Federation and the Techno Union Army and all these inept bad guys were bad guys. We didn't have Darth Maul sit and go, maybe my master's wrong. What am I doing?
We didn't do any of that. No.
And
we definitely did.
What have I done?
We also didn't have a proper reason within that prequel trilogy as to why the separatists are separatists.
No, they decided to leave that to a 7 or 8 season TV show, which is a whole other problem in and of itself.
And a bunch of books too,
and books. Yeah. And some of those books are actually good, but it's like, you should have given us a reason for that connection to still be there within the films themselves. That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother
they were separatists because they were separatists. They're like, oh
yeah,
no, that's not how it works. I mean, if they said, oh yeah, it's because Palpatine has not given up any power, and now they realize, oh, we're not part of a government anymore. We want to be out of this, and we're going to leave. In which case, Palpatine's like, that's exactly what I need you to do so that I can retain more power. It's just, oh yeah. It did miss out something. Again, missed opportunities. This is a byproduct of some not well thought out decisions, and also a team that didn't do what their job was to challenge George Lucas to get the best ideas out of him, as opposed to just saying, yes, sir.
Yes,
That's right. All poems rhyme, sir.
That's how we got a lot of really bad dialogue in that trilogy.
Yes.
But I guess to wrap up the Andor bit, I hope that for people who genuinely enjoy this show, I have no interest in watching it. I'm not going to watch it. I had no interest in watching the first season. It's not my type of Star Wars. It's not the type of stories that I care about within the Star Wars universe. And that's okay. Star Wars is a really big universe. There are a lot of different types of stories you can tell there. Some are going to be for you. Some are not going to be for you. Some are going to be for me. Some are not. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's no different than comic books or any other medium or franchise in entertainment. That being said, I hope that people who really liked the first season end up having genuine reasons to enjoy this one. However, I would say, understand that this show does not have a broad appeal to a large swath of Star Wars fans. Not even just like a broad appeal across normies, because that's a whole other thing, right? Normies aren't watching this really. Most Star Wars fans don't care. So that's something that I think if the creative team on this show is being honest with themselves, they look at and say, okay, we're seeing feedback on our show that says there's good quality here, that they like the storytelling, but there's something missing to where the majority of Star Wars fans, our target demographic, because you're calling it Star Wars Andor, right? So by way of that, it would seem reason would follow that you would want Star Wars fans to be watching your show, right? Star Wars fans aren't watching your show. Star Wars fans don't care. Why? Ask yourself why, figure out why, and then maybe try and there's no changing it now for season 2. Season 2's shot, right? But figure out what it is that got you the quality responses for your show, but still you were lacking in the viewership from the target demographic, right? Figure out how to meet those things in the middle and have a quality show for the target demographic. And then you get more butts in the seats and you get more praise for your show.
What if it's just the Star Wars model does not work on TV?
That's entirely possible.
What if we're going to find out, like, I have a strong suspicion that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie has a decent box office, stronger than your average Marvel movie. Like, and I don't mean like your average flop Marvel movie. I mean, you're like your average, like, oh, this one became profitable. I'm not saying
like 650 at worldwide type of thing.
Yeah, something like that. Like I'm seeing this movie
if
in the
it
700s.
profits, that would be a big deal compared to the last couple of Star Wars films that dropped, right? So,
but I have a suspicion that one, the crossover saturation for the Mandalorian will work on the big screen. And I think a lot of people are pushing towards movies again because streaming is just becoming either too expensive or cumbersome, or like, let's be honest too, and I don't want to get on my platform too high here, but like, we're getting sold something with streaming, and then they're just pulling the rug out from underneath you slightly. It's like, I pay.
And we're gonna add ads anyway, right?
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, seriously, Jeff Bezos, I pay whatever I pay a month for Prime, and now I'm getting commercials. Oh, based on
I need Prime
habits,
Plus.
we're gonna. Yeah, I'm not paying for Prime Plus. You know what I'm gonna pay for? Less Prime. If I didn't use it for shipping for work, I would not use Prime.
I don't pay for any of that extra like tiers for Amazon Prime to get like the no ads or whatever on the videos. I don't even use the video service for that because it's like, no, I'm not going to do that because one, I don't want ads, and two, I'm not going to pay more for that service when I'm already paying for Prime as it is. I'm happy with the benefits that I get for like my, shipping and things like that, and sometimes discounts or whatever, special financing, whatever it is.
This is not.
I'm fine with that. But I don't. Yeah, no, it's not a commercial.
I
Gosh,
get
I
all
wish
that without signing up for Prime because
I
I just buy more than $35 and
I
I get
wish
free
I
shipping.
was freaking sponsored by Amazon. How badass would that be? I'd probably have to be an actual YouTuber for that, though. Not interested. But I'm not going to pay extra for the streaming service. The streaming services have turned into this, like, they're getting high on their own supply, and high is probably not even a good term for it because they're not profiting off it. They're not making money off of it for the most part, because a lot of people probably aren't paying that extra amount because they don't want it, because the extra amount for the no ads is like way more expensive. It's not an insignificant amount more, right? A lot of people are choosing these streaming services because, like, oh, well, this is way cheaper than paying for cable, right? Well, not if you're getting Amazon Prime plus whatever, or whatever the different tiers are
It
for
would
Disney
just
Plus.
be Amazon cubed at that point. But yeah, I get where you're going.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. And then the studios, the companies, aren't making money off of it because they're not getting, residuals. They're not getting royalties. They're not getting licensing payouts for things like that. Like, the smart way to do it on a business, I get the idea of being like somebody like WB and be like, hey, we're the studio that owns DC, and we own Harry Potter, and we own Game of Thrones, so we're going to have these here, and that's a reason for you to go to our platform. Yeah, but you probably actually just make more money if you sold those to other platforms for a huge sum of money and then get licensing royalties on the back end.
Well, actually, they've been doing that with a lot of their backlog IP, like all their Merry Melodies, Looney Tunes, and stuff. They've licensed those out to other parties.
Mhm.
One of the things,
I've noticed
one model that they do have that's been pretty successful is HBO. And what they've been trying to do is figuring out a way to reconcile that for the streaming model at the same time. It's tricky to do because HBO was like, it wasn't television, it was HBO. And the fact that they changed it from HBO Max to just Max, and they didn't have the tagline, it's not streaming, it's HBO, is the dumbest thing marketing wise they ever did, because you would have gotten everybody switching over from the cable version to the streaming version, especially if they made it equal price, because guess what, Warner Brothers, if you were to sell HBO at the same price for streaming, you would retain all of that subscription money because you wouldn't be having to share that through the service providers that also buy into HBO, because as AT&T is a service provider, you get that. But if you're on Comcast or any of the other service providers and you want HBO, well, you're losing a little bit of money because you're paying to process that service through a competitor. And with streaming, you don't have to worry about that. And they botched that up because, again, they had no idea what they were trying to make. And now that they figured out what it is, it's going to take a number of years for them to get it in order so that it can actually be competitive again. Well, at the same time, Warner Brothers is trying to figure out a way to save network television, because they've actually been starting to invest in television shows on the big three that are trying to, move the needle a little bit. And it's been really difficult to do because you've conditioned the last 7 years of people to cut the cable and go straight to the internet for your content and television shows and stories. And yeah, it's hard to find a way to bring them back or find a way to integrate that model onto the streaming service so that people, don't get upset that everything kind of changed back to the way it was. Only now we're watching it on a smart TV or a computer as opposed to, a traditional cable line or digital box.
The things you can learn, folks, here by watching this show. But all joking aside, guys, I people in the chat are saying the Mandalorian movie is going to flop. I think something about this one, I think it's going to work.
No, I don't think it's going to flop.
You don't think it's going to flop? What about you, Script?
No.
I think it'll do pretty well.
I think it's going to do just fine. It's not going to do gangbusters, right? But I think it's going to do just fine, actually. This is something that I think has enough goodwill and enough intrigue that people will tune in for it. I will say, and this is to the credit of where is it? Who am I responding to right now in the chat? Somebody was saying that they waited too long to put out this movie, and I agree entirely. They should have actually done this movie after season 2, when hype was high, after they had that scene with Luke, right? Yeah. Do that, capitalize on the hype there, because then you had season 3, and season 3 outside of like 2 episodes was lame. It was boring. Like, the what was it? 2 episodes in Book of Boba Fett, Jeff, that Mando was in. Those 2 episodes with Mando were better Mando episodes than most of season 3 of Mando.
And one of those episodes was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. So.
Yes, who let her direct a Star Wars movie. Please put a good writer on it.
Yeah,
for the love of God. But like, let her. She clearly has a good directorial eye, and the episodes of Star Wars shows that she has been the director of have been arguably, if not the best, among the best episodes of that particular show's season. Like genuine quality. And why wouldn't it be? Like if she has any 2 cents about her, she paid attention to her father, right? So there's reason to believe that she would be a good director if she actually gave a damn, and clearly she does. So I would 1000% be about a Bryce Dallas Howard directed Star Wars film, as long as like the writer was somebody who was writing a good Star Wars film. Well, pair those 2 together. I don't care.
I think that's what we all want.
Yeah, I would like Star Wars to be good again. Yeah. Like I if it never is again, okay. Like I have the games that I love, I have the books I love, I have the 6 films. That's fine. But I wouldn't be mad if I could still get good new Star Wars. That'd be cool. I mean, I would like good new Star Wars, but if you're not going to give me good new Star Wars, then okay. I'm good with what I have.
Just give me good stuff based on the old Star Wars, and that's enough for me. Like, I'll be completely honest these days. It's like, oh, you got this action figure that looks close enough. That's reasonably priced. Okay, I'm in. Like, that's all I want from Star Wars anymore. I don't want any more books. I don't want any more movies. I don't want any shows. Like, you know, give me some alternate takes of the original movies, like the original cut, maybe a new special edition for 50th anniversary. I don't care. I'm open-minded. But that's kind of where I'm living. I feel like my entire life, like the beginning of the Star Wars fandom I had as a child was great because it was just the original ones. And then every time I was brought out a new version of Star Wars, I liked it less. It's like, oh, here's episode 1. And I was just like, okay, no, I didn't really like it. I'll try it again later. And then I got through that trilogy, and I did like it by the time we got to the last one. And then we get to episode 7, and I'm like, oh wow, I actually really hate this a lot, like a lot.
Well, it's an inferior version of something you'd already watched. So,
but it just keeps, like, from an overall perspective, every time there's new or more, it always goes down a peg. Like, yeah, for as much as everyone might like episode 3 and love all this stuff about it, and it's a good movie, I quite enjoy it, episode 1 and 2 still have some really dumb shit that makes Star Wars a different franchise. Like, there's a guy out there that's like, yeah, Jeff, I feel the same way, except it was before Return of the Jedi came out. But people can understand what I'm talking about. Like, these franchises, they reach these points of no return. And every time new and bold and exciting for Star Wars comes out, I hate it. So I'm living in the past from now on. But I will always turn that off to watch the new stuff, just to give it a fair shake, if you will. Because
I'm willing to give things a fair shake if it's something that interests me in the pitch. Right? I gave Kenobi a fair shake, and
it was garbage.
It was awful. It was so bad. They couldn't have effed that up more if they had tried. Well, okay, this is Lucasfilm 2025 we're talking about. Maybe they could have made it even worse. But it was bad.
You were right the first time. They really can't make it worse. It's like, seriously, think about it for a second.
It was pretty awful. They had a template there that could have worked, irrespective of literally everything else they've done with Star Wars since buying the property. They still could have told basically verbatim the Kenobi novel story, and it would have fit in perfectly fine and been about 8 million times better, because John Jackson Miller is an incredible writer, and that book is one of the best books in the EU. But I'm not going to rant about that. Look, Star Wars is not in a good place right now. We know this. Everybody here knows this. This channel, got some pops early on from Star Wars being in a bad place. And it's unfortunate that that was the case, but we can still enjoy the stuff that was good. Right now, Lucasfilm doesn't seem to understand quite yet what it is about Star Wars that Star Wars fans loved. Even though you've started turning more and more people who were like rooting for you even during some of your earlier bad years into people that are like, man, I just can't be about what y'all are about anymore. I can't do it. Right? Like people who were trying to defend you during the sequels, at least for the first film, you know, maybe even the second and third to some degree, even if it was a small degree, you lost them. How many more people can you afford to lose until you not just are not on the Nielsen's ratings, and nobody's showing up to the theater because you're burning money. You are
Well, they don't
bleeding it out.
There's some magical reason why. We'll never know. You know, they have to be making these decisions because they think they'll make money. Like, no one believes they're in the back going, how do we burn it even further down? I think that's a fun narrative, but I do think we're just watching very inept, very bad decisions be made on a regular basis, like quite frequently to a comical level. To a, like, if you remove the emotion that you cared about Star Wars at some point in time, this is the funniest mishandling of a property ever, because it's just a Chevy Chase pratfall after a Chevy Chase pratfall after another Chevy Chase pratfall. And
Well,
you
I
know,
would say
when
it's
done
almost like
right,
a Chris Farley pratfall where he breaks a table, because it just they're doing it out of desperation. Like they desperately think this is a good idea and this is going to work, and then to see the result, it is the stuff of great tragedy. Like you just can't help but laugh.
it really
And
is.
you're laughing because a part of you is dying as a result of such something that we would observe as like an obvious failure, but whatever perspective these people have at Disney Lucasfilm, they think that this is a surefire win because that's the only reason we're getting this stuff. I mean, never attribute to malice what is actually caused by incompetence.
No, I think that's what a lot of us are realizing. And those stories aren't as funny to tell as, like, I don't think they sell the headlines as well as Malice. It's like, oh, they hate us. I'm sure a lot of people do hate the fans. It's, you know,
They hate a
last week,
portion of the fandom, but they think that they're doing right by the rest of the fandom. That's the delusion.
yeah, and clearly those numbers don't paint that picture. Like, that is not what the data that we have access to, which is not as detailed or refined as the data that they have access to, still paints us the picture how these shows perform. So it's not like we, the fans, make up the performance of these shows. Like, well, we didn't like the Acolyte, so we're going to say it was a bad one. No, like, those metrics are out there. And I gotta wonder why they keep fighting the obvious, that people aren't watching these numbers or aren't watching these shows in the numbers that they should be. Like, is it an ego thing? Is it they're like, oh man, we'll get it next time with one of our brave new bold ideas? Because you're never getting that. What you're getting is another different take on something that doesn't need a different take. It just needs an interesting story told in the middle. And that's where Andor, at least for me so far, it needs to be a little more interesting. You know, serious in tone doesn't need to be light in content. You can have a, like, Heat. Heat is not a boring movie. Heat has a lot going on. Heat also has time to breathe. But Michael Mann's a master of that. Maybe have Michael Mann make Star Wars. That'd be cool.
That would he would make a good spy mission in Star Wars.
Like, imagine if Lucasfilm, instead of just getting a bunch of directors that they could control, like, imagine if they got directors that just were like, hey, I want to do this, and they had the creative vision to pull it off. Like, imagine how Star Wars would look under that. That'd be a much different world.
I'll tell you what actually do well, and I'm gonna try my best to not come off as biased with this because people here on the panel and in the chat know how I already feel about this part of the franchise. If they did a almost 1-to-1, not literally 1-to-1, but a pretty damn close adaptation of Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, people would watch that. Those games did extremely well among Star Wars fans, among normies. Cast Cameron Monaghan, who was both the voice actor and the body motion capture for Cal Kestis.
No, we need Idris Elba.
People would show up. Idris Elba. No. I would be down with Idris Elba playing a character in Star Wars, but not Cal Kestis. He would actually.
We can't have red-haired people, man. We need to have black people replace them. We need
Idris Elba would make a really, really good like grizzled Jedi master. I could see him being that for sure. But get him, people would tune into that. People would show up for that. As long as they treat it properly. They handle the story with the same honor and reverence that Respawn handled that. That's one of the reasons why I'm actually kind of excited for this Zero Company game that was announced at Star Wars Celebration. And yes, that's a segue opportunity. Because Respawn has a history right now of like really good quality Star Wars games. And so I'm like, ooh, like a turn-based RPG from Respawn that's in Star Wars. Okay, I'm here for it. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. Like, did you put in the same level of effort in terms of the storytelling, in terms of the characters and gameplay that you did with the Jedi games? Cool. I see no reason why that game wouldn't be a success. It would, just by way of it being a turn-based thing. Well, I was about to say, just by way of it being a turn-based thing, it's going to have a smaller initial demographic because turn-based is a smaller niche within video games.
Yeah,
but man, that could be a really quality thing. That could be one of those sleeper hits like XCOM and stuff like that. Like that could be a really, really good game.
I just don't know why they don't give us a goddamn spaceship game. Like just a flat out like pilot simulator. Those aren't that hard to make. You gave us that, was it Star Wars Squadrons?
That was Squadrons, man. You got that already.
It was first person only. I didn't even get to see it. I watched the cockpit of a ship. That was so boring. Like this level
That's
of
your
immersion,
flight sim.
No, I want a third person camera view. I want it to be fun. This idea of total immersion, and that's how we make our games worthwhile in this day and age, is, well, they're so much more realistic. Maybe it's not about the realism. It's supposed to be fun. Like don't bog it down. You know, if a feature in the game is so fun to use, keep it in there. Make the whole game fun. Make everything else better to live up to that one feature. Don't hide it behind, oh, we only let you use it on certain levels. This type of like Star Wars reverence where we make boring shit. And it's like, well, we got to treat Star Wars with this great. It's like they don't, though. Like, oh, we're going to get DICE, the people that make all these great Battlefront shooters, and we're going to do Battlefront Star Wars again. And I played it. The game kind of blows. Besides the DLC kerfuffle and all those other issues, I didn't play something that really engaged me. See, the Star Wars games have kind of lost their identity because there's no more LucasArts. Anytime that you make one of these games, it's this company's take on this, or it kind of feels like that, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars anymore. Like, go back and play any of those old LucasArts ones from either the point and click or the real-time strategy, or even like Rogue Squadron or Pod Racing. Like, all of those games were just so fun and unique, and definitely like kept a certain level of quality that they never dipped below. Nowadays, it's a crapshoot, like you've said. You need these games to be treated with the reverence that they need to be treated with.
And most of them aren't.
And they're not. Most, say what you will, and I'm the first one to crap on the prequel era, but say what you will, but at least all the games that came out during that run, those video games were all treated with a certain level of respect, and they're all pretty damn solid. That's like Republic Commando, Clone Wars.
That's a really good game, actually. I played the crap out of Republic Commando and Clone Wars.
I still play it.
Which was an RTS, a Star Wars RTS. What else? Battlefront 1 and 2 on my original Xbox. I played the crap out of.
But those are, and then you can even go back like you got Episode 1 Racer, Jedi Power Battles was pretty fun.
Or just freaking Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace. I played the crap out of that on my PC. Or it wasn't even a PC, it was my dad's work laptop that I played that on.
But we're talking about the best of the best. You know what I'm saying? Like from a certain era.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, I think that's what people often confuse these channels that don't just blindly buy into a company. You got to remember, folks, we've lived through it long enough to where we've watched it go from, oh, this is all pretty good, to this all kind of sucks. Like, you have to look for the good one. Back in the day, it's which one do I have the time for? Because they all look pretty cool. Why can't they make them all that way? Why can't they all work? Why can't they have compelling protagonists? Why do they all have to check off a box? Well, this one has a girl that looks like you, blah, blah, blah. I get it. You have to make the characters ugly to appease some invisible... Like, is there some, like, fucking H.P. Lovecraftian Cthulhu, like, god of ugliness and equality that's, like, out there in the ether, that if we don't, like, sacrifice enough beauty and art, that it's gonna, like, appear and create Armageddon, Doomsday? Like, I feel like that's what we're living with because of all these stupid decisions. Like, the discourse around The Last of Us. You got the girl that they claim looks like a potato, but you have all these other actors and cosplayers that look more like the character.
Don't talk shit about potatoes like that.
They're delicious. I enjoy a good baked potato more often than I should. So I'm not really talking trash. All I'm saying is...
Loaded baked potatoes are the shit, man.
Yeah.
Heck,
that's a good and filling meal, and a pretty inexpensive one, too.
Over 1 million Irish people left their land because they couldn't grow potatoes. That's how good they are.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
For my favorite meal, too. Folks in the chat, what's your favorite meal, and where would you move away to get it? Andrew, what's your favorite meal?
Lasagna.
How far would you go to get it?
Pretty far. However much money that I have in my bank account would be required.
Well, wherever you have to go is fine, I guess. You'll go to a Buca di Beppo and find your lasagna. You're gonna be okay.
I like lasagna quite a lot. That's fine. That's
fine. You ever make it?
I don't have I enjoy cooking. I don't have the patience to do a more intricate pasta like that from scratch. I had a roommate several years back who was actually a chef, and he taught me how to make a lot of things, and he also would make like lobster ravioli and stuff like that from scratch. Like, he would actually hand do the ravioli, and it was impressive as hell. And I'm like, man, that's awesome, and it's delicious as all sin. But I ain't doing that.
You could have just said no.
I had to tell the story. You're welcome.
So let me pull this image up here so we can talk about a transition. Clone Geek, if you're looking for good steak and hash browns, go to the Pine Club. Okay? Just go there. Jeff Stark, member for 22 months. Thank you, Jeff Stark. I appreciate all you've done for the channel. He says, just finished Andor Season 2, first 3 episodes. I enjoyed them. Great start. I'm looking forward to the Mandalorian movie. Baby Yoda is awesome.
Cool.
Jeff, Baby Yoda has not overstayed his welcome. I'm there to see where the character goes.
I want them to do something more with him.
It's a 50-something-year-old baby. It should be talking.
Yeah.
Or just do something interesting with him, for the love of God. Like, and I say that as somebody, I actually like the kid. Like, I want to see more of him, but like, do more with him.
Don't kill him.
Right? Well, don't kill him. That'll piss people off. But also, don't just keep doing the same thing. Right now, he's really just kind of a tag along, and then can act as a pseudo kind of Deus Ex Machina in some scenarios. And it's like, okay, you got to do better than that in terms of storytelling, and actually start to give some characterization to the kid, right? And I'll be happy. I'll be happy as a clam, because I actually like Mando, mostly because he has his helmet on the vast majority of the time, because I don't like looking at Pedro Pascal, because he always looks like he just woke up out of bed and didn't do anything for 2 days. Dude, that's what he looks like in Fantastic Four. It pisses me off. It looks like Pedro Pascal playing Pedro Pascal who just rolled out of bed.
Well,
Doesn't look like
maybe
Reed
that was what
Richards.
the script called for.
Maybe. It's not what I would have called for. Anyway, like just do something more interesting with the kid right now. Right now, the kid is kind of stale because they're not doing anything else with him.
Well,
he's just kind of there.
Well, I think a lot of these things feel stale because they take forever to make a new season or a new episode. Like, these things don't get released on a regular basis where they feel like they're part of culture. Like, and I don't mean just Disney Star Wars. I mean Stranger Things. It's been like, what, 3 years since the last season dropped?
Yeah, those
Squid
kids are
Game.
adults now and getting married.
Yeah, they're filing for retirement soon, man. Like, they're older than we are. I say that all the time. Like, these shows are so dated, and what happens too is you have to spend so much of the season reminding the audience of the show. So it's like, hey, Stranger Things kids, remember Vecna? And then like you spend half of an episode recapping Vecna, when maybe if the show came out the following year, it would just be assumed that people maybe have watched it and it's in their recent memory that they remember everything, and we could just kind of move along and tell more of the story. It's kind of why I always feel so stagnant and mildly frustrated with entertainment, because it just, to catch up, we have to catch up so many people because we barely make it at a fast enough rate for people to stay aware of it. It's a lot. I know it sounds like a weird complaint, but it can't be just me that feels this way.
No, because again, keeping a show property in the conversation is predicated on the fact that you have between 22 and 26 episodes a season, because that's 26 weeks, and that's not consecutive weeks. That's with a couple of breaks, towards the winter and towards sweeps. So you've got 3/4 of a year of a television show with 1/4 where you're in between seasons. So you have a chance to kind of like rewatch, catch up on missed episodes or what have you, in anticipation for the following season that is coming in the fall. We don't have that anymore. We got 8-episode seasons, or 10-episode seasons, or 13-episode seasons,
and it goes by like that.
They go by quickly. They're years apart, and they're shot rather expensive on the production side of things, but because there's such a gap between seasons, the actors themselves struggle for work because they have a show that's guaranteed, but it's a 13-week shoot. And when you're working on a traditional television show, it's 10 days per episode. And if you're doing 26 episodes, that's 200 days or 260 days. So you're working most of the year. It's a pretty reliable job to have for an actor. That's why they seek out television shows. But in this day and age, we don't have that anymore. We're shooting it like a movie. It's a tight production that's under 4 months, and that's it. And then you're back out looking for work until we resume production again next year or the year after that. And that's tough on everybody. It's even tough on the writing team and the directors as well, because again, they don't ramp up things after they finish, shooting that first season. They have to renegotiate and then reschedule and get everything all in order long before they actually get down to the room to write again. And they're supposed to do it under a crunch time, which means they'll probably get 6 weeks to write 13 episodes paired off in various teams. And then they're done. And it's really just kind of a way to spend a lot of money in a short amount of time that doesn't have the staying power for the people that work on those productions, so that they can actually, put stuff away, invest in a house or a family or anything of that nature. It's a model that benefits the studios in the short term and hurts a lot of cast and crew in the long term.
Oh, sorry, I was stepping away to get some water. What'd you guys? Oh, Andrew stepped away. So
yeah, that's
where
okay.
Were we at script? Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just sharing with the chat the importance of why we need to get back to a model of like 22 to 26 episode seasons, because it stimulates the economy, also stimulates our interest in a show, allows us to give staying power for the stuff that succeeds, and also allows us to kind of quickly cancel that which fails so that we can invest in something that will succeed. The
Oh,
tight
okay.
season model with the large gaps between seasons, it creates a lot more suffering than enjoyment.
Yeah, I do feel a lot of suffering when I watch modern entertainment these days. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like I told you last week, Mobland, that was a chore to sit through, so I stopped.
Yeah,
But
that's why I recommend St. Denis Medical. I mean, it's a safe, reliable comedy, and David Alan Greer's great in it. They have another guy there that's an arrogant surgeon who he's warming up to me. I think he's kind of funny. And then they have this other kid who's a nurse who may or may not have come from a cult that was isolationist, and now he's this guy that's a fish out of water, completely awkward, doesn't know how to integrate with people. So it's got some interesting characters to it.
I sat down to The Righteous Gemstones, which has been a great decision. Wonderful show.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's my recommend of the week, folks. If you want something different to watch, The Righteous Gemstones. I think you'll love it. I know I do. So, thank you, Jeff, for that. And then I believe we had a super chat come in from, hold on, we had a couple messages come in. First off, from Swift -1, question for script. Why was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. made? They never cared about it. They won't even bring up those characters. They won't even bring them back, even to disrespect them.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was made because Joss Whedon is still butthurt over his Firefly being canceled. So he took that entire model and he repurposed it for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because it was produced by Mutant Enemy on CBS, or sorry, ABC. And it was the method was actually something that Feige was trying to do. And that was have a television universe that could be a support system and a bridge between the feature films. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was ideally going to do that. Its first season did fairly well, even though I found it kind of mid. And then they kind of basically cut their nose off to spite its face when they did the Winter Soldier and they decided to abolish S.H.I.E.L.D. So now you have this small, tight group of a team in an airplane flying around the world acting as shield with unlimited resources still at their disposal and all the science stuff made by these two British people. It was gobbledygook after that. I as much as I enjoyed the Winter Soldier for what it was, it felt like we kind of introduced and got rid of Shield way too quickly in the MCU.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like that we overlooked so many things that could have taken years and really like look,
Burned
the
through them.
MCU is a
Yeah.
testament to success financially or to a financial success, but you could have stretched out the stuff that we had and not even finished those story arc shit if you would have done them like the way they're done in these books. But, maybe that wasn't meant to be. But yeah, like this story or the scrolls, like there are so many different things they could have done longer that would have been better in my opinion.
Yeah, because we went over on one of the episodes, maybe 2 years ago on this show, of like all the tentpole comic stories that Marvel had, and I think it's under 20, of them, but they're good, and they're all stuff that hadn't been done yet in the MCU, with the exception of the Infinity Gauntlet story, and that could have gotten another 10, 15 movies easily out of the MCU before even getting to Infinity War, and Endgame, and yeah, like, I mean, I would love to have seen them do Demon in a Bottle. That was a great story. I would love to see another.
Favreau pitched it. He wanted to do it.
Yeah. Well, no, he did. He actually got really close, but as soon as Disney got got the distribution rights, it was him versus Disney, because they're like, well, we're Disney. We're a family company. We can't have our superheroes being alcoholics. It's like, what? Seriously? Like, because Paramount was all over that. They're like, yeah, Demon in the Bottle, do it. Let's see Donnie get, throw up in his suit and all that stuff. Like they were all for that. Because again, Paramount didn't care. It was all about like,
But we could show Tony being drunk in the suit anyway.
you can be drunk, but you don't make him an alcoholic, because that's different, right? Because being a drunk is being drunk. Being an alcoholic is losing control. And
There's a
Disney,
difference.
Definition of being drunk.
exactly. But no, there's lots of other stories they could have explored before they got to the heart of Thanos, and now
Now we're in newer territory. Like I would have loved to see more Dormammu and Doctor Strange type of stuff. Get a little bit more into the fun part of the magic as opposed to the jumping into the multiverse aspects of it. Heck,
We're going straight to the Darkhold.
Yeah. For Agents of Shield. Like, yeah, Agents of Shield ended up like really repurposing a lot of stuff. Secret Invasion would have been like what they did with Secret Invasion on that Disney Plus show is terrible. But you could have had a good Secret Invasion trilogy, in the MCU before you get to the Thanos finally wanting to snap everything out of existence. That 50% thing. It's just a sad series of events.
Well, to Jeff's point that he made a moment ago, like we could only just now be getting to Thanos.
We should be, yes.
There are more than enough stories to draw that out. They rushed that. As good as those first 3 phases were, and very successful, they could have drawn it out.
Yeah, I would have also liked to have seen. I mean, I'm mixed on Don Cheadle, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more participation with the two Iron Man and War Machine doing some stuff. That would have been fun. I would have liked to have seen a proper Shield movie with Nick Fury and Maria Hill at the forefront, dealing with something like a resurgence of Hydra. I would have loved to see like the return of the Red Skull instead of having him be that spirit thing on what that crazy Vormir planet was it? I think it was.
That was just for member berries.
It was, but I would like to see the resurgence of Hydra. I would have loved to see MODOK. Just Zemo was okay in Civil War, but I mean they kind of turned their backs on him a little bit too early.
Did nothing with him afterwards.
Yeah, and same thing with Zoloft. Like I would have loved to have seen like, okay, so we have a copy of Zoloft in that Shield base in Jersey, but then hell, we've got another copy of him in a giant robot body. Like, come on, let's have some fun with this stuff here. And yeah, just seems like they decide to rush through the more popular stories as opposed to taking the really interesting ones that maybe didn't resonate enough with the broader audience, but Jeff definitely hit the tickle bone of the core audience of the diehards, who would then of course do what they did with Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, which is go see the movies, talk up how great they are, and convince the general audience to go experience them as well. And that's how you built that franchise.
And it used to be so exciting to watch these things. I know I say it all the time, but I miss it. Midnight releases, getting your giant 7-Eleven cups, checking out books that you hadn't read before. Like, it used to be a thing, and now it's, I don't know. I wish I could get excited for it. I try every time. Like, maybe not for Thunderbolts, because I'm already kind of giving up on that one, but, trying.
Yeah.
Xavier to God, fuck, marry, kill. French fries, baked potatoes, and mashed potatoes. Ooh.
You got to eat them all at once. That's how you do it.
I mean, well,
I'm marrying all these because they're all good.
Under the assumption, potato cubes where you chop it up and then you kind of fry them. Oh, those are great too. Potato skins, another one. It's great.
Dude, I love scallop potatoes.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. But those aren't on there because Xavier God's a pleb. But thank you for your $2. I would let's see, marry mash, F baked. I guess kill the French fries, mostly because that's French in the name.
No, the freedom fries are down there, aren't they?
That's still Belgian.
Let's not talk about that.
America.
Or you just call them fries. I mean, that's the other.
Palm frites, if you will.
Palm frites, yeah.
Xavier to God and Andrew, I think I might follow suit because a good mashed potato really
good loaded mash, man. You can't beat that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, like you can get a great mashed potato for German food. You can get great mashed potatoes to go with chicken. You can get great mashed potatoes to go with American dishes like meatloaf. It's very versatile. And honestly, you just don't even have to change it up very much. You can make it with Parmesan cheese and all this extra unnecessary shit, or you can just put, real butter and lots of cream and salt and shit like that. So, oh, I'm thinking about this way too much at 12:33 in the morning.
I
But
was about to say Jeff is finna like make some mashed potatoes right now.
I could, but it would take forever to get the potatoes ready. I wouldn't be able to eat it. No, I'm not. I'm done. I'm done even thinking about it. Thank you. Anything else you guys want to say before we move on to the celebration recap?
No, that's
Nah.
good for me.
All right. So, folks, as you can see here on the screen, we have the Star Wars Celebration logo for 2025. It has come, it has gone, and well, here is your updates for what you might have missed, if you care. So, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is going to be released theatrically next year, May 22nd of 2026. This will be the first Star Wars movie since The Rise of Skywalker, which I can't believe. I feel like so many things in life have frozen or changed since this, and we're finally getting back to normalcy now that a Star Wars movie is getting released theatrically again. This has been a long gap. But
Yes, everyone that wanted Star Wars to take a break, technically, it's already done that.
yeah. Unless you were watching the Disney Plus shows, which you didn't miss much as a guy who sat through them all. Oh. Anything you guys really want to say about The Mandalorian and Grogu? I do think the bloom fell off this one a long time ago. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like we already just talked about this. Like, they should have done it after season 2. That's when you would have capitalized on the film and therefore your potential box office returns when the series was at its highest, right? In terms of conversation, in terms of notoriety, ratings, things like that. Now you're playing on the back foot, right? And people care even less about Star Wars in terms of Disney Star Wars new projects than they ever have. So they really shot themselves in the foot with this one. I'm still mildly curious just because, again, I like Mando. I like the kid. I like Bo-Katan. I would like to know what kind of story they think they're going to tell with this right now. Because it's, again, just another story set in the general time frame of the Empire or post-Empire or within the span of a few decades, right? I don't know. We'll see.
will we see? Will you see personally?
They'd have to hook me with a really good trailer, like a really good full trailer.
I hope that they use the Star Wars theme. I know that sounds stupid, but to like be, I don't know, flipping through TV one night, here, da 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 da, and you're just like, ooh, what is it? And then you just see like whatever he flies around in, that Naboo starfighter, and it looks cool, and it's the music, and
I would
that
be
might-
okay with them using both John Williams' Star Wars theme as well as, like, I actually dig the Mando theme from the
me
show.
too. I liked Ludwig Göransson's
So-
theme. I thought
I would love.
feels
It's
Star
very
Wars,
spaghetti
Star Wars.
western.
Yeah.
So I feel like lead into it with that, but then build towards the Star Wars theme and end the trailer with that. And it's like, okay, build that energy, crescendo it, get people hyped. If they can do that, maybe.
Well, let's talk about the next one. So, Star Wars Starfighter, which is supposed to be released theatrically on May 28th of 2027, directed by Sean Levy, starring Ryan Gosling as a new character. This standalone adventure is set 5 to 6 years after the rise of Skywalker. It's
And
described as a fresh story, and it dispels most of its online rumors about its plot. So, whatever the fuck that means
This
aside,
is going to be the 50th anniversary Star Wars film.
this is the 50th anniversary.
Man.
Ryan Gosling.
You're better off just like re-releasing the first 6 films in theaters as your
They
50th
just put the
anniversary.
first one back out. I'd be
Yeah.
pumped to see that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
give
too.
it a 70 millimeter print. The one before George Lucas tampered with it.
Yeah. I think we'd all love that as fans.
I would.
But I find that funny that this one's the one that's going to be so far along. I get that Ryan Gosling's a big name, and he did Blade Runner and all this other shit, but
Fall Guy was not bad. I mean, that's
yeah, I know you guys.
He's a
liked it
good
more than
actor. It's
me.
just he's not going to be the draw for me to go see a Star Wars film. I like him as an actor. I want a good Star Wars film. That's going to be the draw for me to go see a Star Wars film.
It's just got to be an interesting concept for me personally. Like, I don't buy into branding anymore, where it's just like, oh, you know what? I will happily watch this film because it's from this universe. Like, I've been burned, and no more. But it's easier said than done. Anyway, though, moving on to the next film that they've announced is other films in development. Kathleen Kennedy, who today has announced that she's probably leaving in August. So let's keep that hype train rolling, for God's sakes, because nothing ever fucking changes. Kathleen Kennedy confirmed ongoing projects, including James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi, which we've known about, Charmaine Obi-Chinoy's Rey-focused film, Post-Rise of Skywalker, and Taika Waititi's untitled Star Wars project, as well as the new trilogy from Simon Kinberg.
Taika
What about
Waititi's
Ryan-
film's never happening.
What about Ryan Johnson's trilogy? What happened?
Yeah, file him and Taika Waititi under the same thing. Not happening. Put it there with StarCraft Ghost, Half-Life 3. Not happening.
Oh, and Rogue Squadron, because
Yeah.
that's what Starfighter is.
Rangers of the New Republic. Not happening.
Yeah.
It's just like we keep saying, chalk this up under, is this actually going to get made? Does this actually matter? I think this is like a situation where we don't want these movies to come out collectively as fans, so don't make the Rey movie. Don't make the James Mangold 25,000 years before the Jedi. Maybe just don't keep trying to go back and tell stories between stories. If you're going to make a damn movie, make a new one. Make it post whatever. But just, I don't know, stop with that shit. I'm not interested in any of these, personally. But I guess I have to keep an open mind, right? Is that how this works?
I mean, all things considered, I guess, but I'm the person here. This is the sad part. I'm the person here that telling a Dawn of the Jedi story. I'm the most likely person here to be excited for that. Okay? Because that's thousands, tens of thousands of years before the Skywalker saga. And I'm sorry, I know people love the Skywalkers. They're the least interesting thing about Star Wars for me. I like them.
I'm glad you said for me, because it's like, that's a bold statement to make.
For me, I qualified that. It's subjective. I like so many other characters outside of the Skywalker family, while still liking the Skywalker family. Dawn of the Jedi, yeah, if this was not Disney Star Wars era, and we had not had back to 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 back ad nauseum garbage, or like at best mid projects, I would be so hyped for this right now, but I'm not. I have no reason to be yet. If they put out a trailer that looks like it's an absolute banger, okay, well, maybe I'll give you a fair shake. I'll give you the once over, the old college try, right? But right now, like, as the person who is the most likely to be interested in that project, I could not be less interested in that project.
Well, let me tell you about some more projects you'll probably be disinterested in. On the television and animation front, there is Star Wars Maul, Shadow Lord, a new animated series focusing on Darth Maul, voiced by Sam Witwer, set after the Clone Wars and before Star Wars Rebels. The story follows Darth Maul rebuilding his criminal empire, as well as his new legs, on a planet untouched by the Empire, training a new Padawan. And then there was a trailer that was shown at the 20th anniversary of Lucasfilm Animation.
Saw a leaked version of that trailer. I'm actually moderately looking forward to this, mainly because I like Darth Maul, and it looks like that apprentice that he's training might end up becoming Darth Talon. But I'm cautious because this is still current year Disney Star Wars, and there is a very high likelihood of being awful. But I like Sam Witwer a lot. He's a genuine fan, and he knows the lore, and he's gone on record as pushing back against a lot of the people at Lucasfilm in terms of like, that doesn't make sense, though. It doesn't actually work for the character. The character wouldn't do that because this and this, and then just cites literally all the precedent for why they wouldn't do that. This is even against Dave Filoni.
Well, this is why Dave Filoni doesn't use him that much anymore.
It's because he's a bigger Star Wars fan than Dave Filoni is, and actually knows his shit.
Well, Dave Filoni knows his stuff. He just doesn't agree with it. That's the problem. Like he doesn't care enough to say, okay, let's follow it this way. He's like, no, I'm gonna make this my own thing. Like he has usurped a lot of Star Wars right now. That the fact that Jon Favreau publicly stated that he's able to learn a lot from Dave Filoni is the most oxymoronic thing out there ever, because Jon Favreau is a true filmmaker and Dave Filoni is a guy who was fortunate enough, who was washed out of conventional animation, was fortunate enough to win over George Lucas enough that he worked on George Lucas's animation projects to get that going. And he's had no other job out in the industry outside of working at Lucasfilm. He has the most narrow perspective of production of anyone in the entertainment industry. And he's been given so much power. And he is literally the type that says Star Wars is fun with lightsabers and staring off into vistas. That's his interpretation of Star Wars. And that's why when everything he does, especially with Ahsoka, he's literally turned her from a Mary Sue type character that's been obfuscated with certain failures and certain disagreements with the Jedi Council and Anakin to essentially Ahsoka the Gray, and then to die and come back as Ahsoka the White. Because God forbid Jay Filoni, do something original and take a risk with Star Wars like George Lucas did, as opposed to just watching some other movies and thinking, hey, that's a good idea, I'll just turn that into Star Wars. Because there's no way he read Lord of the Rings.
He introduced freaking time travel in Star Wars for no other reason than to have a Deus Ex Machina to save his precious baby Ahsoka,
who he's using as an anchor point to create a whole new variation of Star Wars. It's basically what it is.
I love this guy more and more every time we talk about him.
Listen, the idea that you have Anakin as a regular Jedi Knight, not a master status, doesn't matter. You just make him a regular Jedi Knight, newly knighted, and you give him a Padawan. I mean, yeah, you're trying to like ape what George Lucas did with Obi-Wan Kenobi to Anakin Skywalker. But Obi-Wan had also a good 10, 15 years of experienced Jedi training compared to Anakin. And the other part, too, is that Obi-Wan was defying the council by taking Anakin on as an apprentice. But here, the council gives Anakin an apprentice. And before he's even really completely understood the gravity of what it means to teach someone else, it's literally like getting a person in teachers college in their first year and then sending them to high school to start mentoring a group of kids. Like, they haven't finished the job yet on the learning side of things. They're nowhere near prepared enough to help shape a younger student. And it seems like it very counter to what any Jedi on a high council would ever consider authorizing, even in wartime, because you're putting that student at risk of execution. So doesn't matter that he's the chosen one. It's like there's still standards and practices that have to be maintained.
I always thought it came off as a little 1980s, hey, we got to have a kid sidekick for this cartoon.
Yeah. But the thing is, Anakin's supposed to be that Toby one. And you're supposed to see that dynamic and that friendship.
Oh, I know. I don't think they knew, or,
Dave Filoni wanted a little kid fantasy, what his wife would be if he ever got someone that didn't just say yes to him after begging her many, many years back to back and isn't secretly a Wiccan of sorts. There's a whole lot of trouble with his personal life and that. But
are these people really this weird?
She's a weird one. Yeah. I've heard some stories from 1 degree of separation.
Oh, jeez.
The other part, too, is that Dave Filoni is a great conversationalist of his love for Star Wars, to the point where it's easy to get caught in his spell, so to speak. But what he understands and what he develops feel like they come from two different people.
Well,
he can talk the talk, but he doesn't walk the walk.
I think it's that he's a fan that never went deeper enough to understand the value of what creative efforts were required to create the thing he fell in love with.
That's the most
and that's something really difficult for a lot of fans to do. And that's why there's always going to be fewer writers than there are fans that love work.
Well, I mean, I do agree to some degree that people that work on stuff should be quote unquote fans, but I also at the same time, Dave Filoni fits into that category, and I don't care that he's a fan. I don't.
He's
His work is not my cup of tea.
The thing is, he's a fan that is not as well versed in other genres and other styles of storytelling or other properties of storytelling. It's Star Wars or nothing with him. And even when he talks about like referencing other stories, it's doing so on a superficial level, like Lord of the Rings or like Spartacus or Ben-Hur. It's, oh, I watched that movie. These are some set pieces I saw I liked. I'm going to use that. There's no investigation into the deeper meaning of what it means and why it stood the test of time. And that's a problem because, again, you can go neck deep into all the lore, all the novels of Star Wars, but if you don't start reading stuff outside of Star Wars with that same vigor, you're never going to actually see what the real magic of that property as it was, because you need to have a palate cleanser to appreciate the thing that you love when you return to it. And then again, it also comes back to my counter argument of why fans shouldn't be involved in the creative process, because how do you determine who's the best fan? Because right now, according to Disney, Filoni is the best fan. And I would say he's not the best representative of what the fandom would be, even though he's definitely has a very large loyal following. I'd rather have someone that is the best storyteller, because they're probably going to give me something that feels authentic to the franchise, but also new at the same time, and do the very thing that George Lucas was able to pull off with his team, which is, oh, I've got this idea. I know how the rules of storytelling. I know how to get these characters to resonate with people. I'm bad with dialogue, but I mean, I have the right people in my corner that can help me work it and massage it so it fits at least better than the way I can write it. And I can hit the emotional beats that are needed to for this story. Dave Filoni is like, remember that time where Luke did this? I'm going to have Ahsoka do something similar to that.
Thanks, Dave. I love your depth.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's why when you Google like Star Wars fan films, the most of them are shot either in a desert, in a forest, and it's just a lightsaber battle. Sure, it's well choreographed and it's fine, but there's no substance to it. There's not enough there that you can remember beyond that point. And you're like saying, okay, great effort. You appreciate it. You showed us your love of Star Wars. Oh, that's fantastic. But if you really understood what Star Wars was, the last thing you'd ever do is a lightsaber battle in a forest or a desert.
Yeah, I've always disliked those, not because of, trying to be a hater, but it's for the reason you said. There's so much more to it. And if you just want to, show your love in that way, that's cool. I'm not here to judge. But, Star Wars is so many different things to so many different people. Like, I'm a spaceship guy. I never get my spaceship fixed. All the fan films, it's like really bad acting and really good cosplay. And then it's like,
and some amazing CGI for fans. I mean, that's one thing that's really kind of always impressive is the special effects they really know how to do them well.
Well, you know what? That's what you have to have for Star Wars.
Under very small budgets.
Yeah.
I do love the passion, though. And I love that those people do it. And I love that with YouTube, they can have their stuff seen by the whole world, I may have not liked SC-77, but a lot of people did. And hey, more power to them.
Oh, are you talking like the Obi-Wan Vader, Darth?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated that. But I appreciated the effort. It's just... I know professional swordsmen, and they say, yeah, when you have a 90-year-old swordsman and a well-trained 55-year-old swordsman fighting, they are doing as few moves as possible because they have no idea how long that fight's going to be, and they're not wasting their energy.
Well, my complaint beyond that was people don't understand the emotional meaning of like an old school lightsaber duel. It wasn't about the flash and the pomp and the circumstance. It was about the deeper theme.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me about a lot of modern day film criticism or film reinterpretation. It's like that layer of depth is lost. It doesn't need to be, people treat that layer of depth as a creative decision or a inability to have special effects meet the demand of the story. But it's just a great storytelling element that would be just as welcome today, where literally everything's possible on screen.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
one of the things I like in that battle is Obi-Wan is making no effort to try and defeat Vader. He is staring at a student he failed. And what is he doing? Well, he's trying to counter him. He's saying like, listen, I was a student when I was last fought you. Now I'm a master. He's like, you're not a master. You're a master of evil, and that's not who you are. I mean, that's the subtext there that Alec Guinness is providing. And then, of course, he's saying like, listen, he's antagonizing by saying you're so out of your depth that if you were to strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. And I'm appealing to your lust for power to try and show you that you are on the wrong side. And then what happens? Well, he strikes him down and he vanishes into the Force in a way that, Vader's surprised. He has no idea what happened. He's like, this doesn't seem normal. From compared to all the other Jedi he has exterminated. And what does it do is it proves the very thing Obi-Wan stated at the start of that fight, that as powerful as Vader is, there's a lot he has left to learn.
that's why we're able to analyze that movie 50 years later.
Yeah. I mean, and heck, that was a byproduct of, I believe, Marshall Lucas saying, like, maybe you should kill Obi-Wan here, because he was going to live to the end of the movie originally.
It works.
And it works.
Let's see. In terms of other things we have Star Wars Visions Volume 3. Star Wars Visions presents The Ninth Jedi.
Hashtag not interested.
Ahsoka Season 2.
Ugh.
Yeah. It'll start filming soon.
It'll start with Ahsoka staring off into a vista.
With her arms crossed, don't forget.
With her arms crossed on that planet saying, it's time. It's like, no, you don't have to wait for time. You're trapped on a planet. You should be struggling every single second to try and find a way to get off that planet.
Your goal should be to get gone.
Yes. It's like, you can fashion a lightsaber out of random parts. You should be able to use the Force to mine minerals and create a spaceship.
Yeah.
God, I'm dreading how boring that show will be.
I mean, if it's anything like the first season, yeah, it would be boring as hell. Nothing happens.
And it's also tragic because, as I said before, a writer is limited by their own level of intelligence. They cannot write a character smarter than them.
And so they're dealing with Thrawn.
And that's why Thrawn is so pathetic in, I guess, Rebels and also in Ahsoka, because Dave Filoni, he doesn't know anything about military strategy. He doesn't understand the different rules at play when you're dealing in a space where you're not limited by direction because you can go in any direction you want. There's no imagination there.
Why would you not hire a former military strategist to help you walk through that?
Well, there's some mixed reasons, because there's a lot of them that don't even like to reveal certain strategies because, they're probably still in operation. But yeah, you definitely want someone who could at least help you create scenarios so that you could actually like speculate and run ideas through, given the rules of space. I mean, we have think tanks too that you can actually go and visit that talk about, well, what would space combat and warfare be like? What type of vessels would there be? Would it be all satellites? Would it be drones? Would it be piloted ships? Would we be using lasers or missiles, or would we be still using conventional, bullets of sort, because they would still have just as just as lethality level of lethality on Earth as they would in space, if not more, because it's less likely that the velocity is going to decrease unless they get caught into a gravity well of a large mass object like moon or planetoid or another planet. And like the other part too is like, what would the range be? Would it be, several thousand miles apart? And is there a way to, again, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but there's lots of variables to look at that's different than what you normally expect. And yeah, there's no level of thought or effort or imagination would ever be explored with a man like Dave Filoni, who had a Star Destroyer in low orbit, just hovering over a pillar for a while. And apparently
For some reason, they unloaded all of their supplies off the Star Destroyer to the surface, only so that they could spend hours reloading them back into the Star Destroyer ship. Just silly.
It's the only thing that
Come
makes
on,
any
man.
sense.
Don't think about logic.
Like, oh yeah, we have a large Star Destroyer that's basically self-sustaining with all of our food supplies and what have you. But let's take it all off the ship and put it on the surface of this planet because we need fresh air, I guess.
Oh, like Spaceballs.
Yeah. Druidia air, the best air in the world.
Now, there are some games. There's going to be an update to Smuggler's Run at the theme park because nobody cares about the the sequels anymore. But it's going to be based on Mandalorian. There's going to be some Fortnite collaborations. There's going to be Outlaw DLC. I personally am not going to be playing any of these because they just don't seem that interesting to me. But anything else you want to say about the games before we move on to the final segment?
Like I mentioned, I'm actually genuinely looking forward to Respawn Entertainment's Zero Company game. I think that, if anything, could be really good because they do have a history and tradition of quality. So I'm willing to give that game at least a fair shake. But this other stuff, I don't really care.
All right. There's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 new books, and the High Republic's coming back. There are comic books, a 4-issue 10th anniversary edition of The Force Awakens.
Oh God.
Wow, that's a choice.
Yeah, and that's about it, really.
They're doing a manga adaptation of Jedi Fallen Order. I know I seem to always get excited when I talk about Jedi Fallen Order. It's because I love it. I don't think that's a secret around here. That I'm looking forward to. I've seen some preview pages in Japanese, and the art is amazing. I will be getting that.
Well, I'm happy. I'm glad you will, man. I don't really have any funny thing to say about it. Personally,
If it's Jedi Fallen Order related, typically I grab it. That's basically the extent of my Star Wars purchases these days.
if it's got Han Solo, I will buy it. So, our friend Shribbles White says, I'll take an Uncle Ben and another one, please. Sure thing. Just give me a quick second to get to the proper tabs. And here is your first one, right? Where are you, DJ Khaled? Yeah, that's something you can scream randomly on this channel. Right here.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one.
Well, thank you, Shrubbles08. And now, your first button, a personal favorite of mine here on the channel. An oldie, but a goodie. It's an oldie where I come from, but your kids are going to love it.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Uncle Ben.
Well, thank you, Shrubbles08. Up next, we had a message from our friend, let's see, TLJ Screwjob, who says, wow, what a great birthday present. Manda will be not. I'm sorry that that's your birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, rip. Thoughts and prayers.
I had Final Destination, no, Paranormal Activity 3. That was a birthday movie.
I think
I
one of the
also-
Resident Evil films came out on my birthday.
I was also born on the day that not Friday the 13th, Halloween 4 came out. That is my exact birth date film, so not really a great one.
That's unfortunate. I'm sorry.
You know, I eventually came to terms with it. It took years to get over it, Andrew, like literal years. But you know, once I realized that the grass was greener on the other side, I relaxed and I've enjoyed my life for the most part. As much as one can when you share a birthday with Halloween 4.
Sure. I mean, you can only be expected of so much, right?
Yeah, I'm only a man. I do a lot, but I'm only a man. And so, folks, I think that's all we can really do for a show. Anything else you guys want to say about the Star Wars topics that we covered tonight?
I'd say apathy is setting in a little harder than I expected.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? What have you seen in terms of apathy?
I've seen nobody really responding to anything that happened at this Star Wars celebration. That's like the news has been very, very mild onto it compared to, since Star Wars Celebration first really took hold.
Yeah, I do think we're past the point of no return with Star Wars. Like, I know people want to talk about, oh, you got to give these things a chance. You got to do this. You got to do that. Okay, if we give it a chance and we're still here, like, what do you want from us, But
Yeah.
it is kind of hard to look at the hype or lack thereof. And honestly, like, you can't convince yourself that this was the hottest thing on the internet
No.
this weekend.
No, it absolutely is not. Absolutely is not.
I think the next time Star Wars will be on everyone's mind is when one of the actors passes away. And I'm not trying to be morbid, but when Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford pass away, more people will talk about Star Wars than any movie ever. Like, that's really it for saturation.
It is, and Harrison Ford would be rolling in his grave because he'd rather people talk about Indiana Jones.
Right, it's true. He took the joke from me.
Well, it's a good joke,
Hmm.
but I think that's kind of
Shoot,
sad.
he'd probably rather people talk about Air Force One.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. Or Jack Ryan films. He did 2 of them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wasn't he the first actor to play him more than once?
Yeah, I believe so.
And not only, but no, I like Harrison Ford for more than his main iconic characters, but I do love all of those. So
His character in Firewall, that was funny.
get off my computer. That's that movie, right?
Yeah. Yes, pretty much. He used a scan. He tore apart a scanner from a printer so that he could scan a screen at hyperspeed. I'm like, no scanner functions that fast. Not at that time.
Don't
Goodness.
kill the illusion of the story script. Some people like to dream a little. You guys
True.
are talking about the Red Hulk. Oh my god, I forgot he
No.
played the Red Hulk.
No, I'm not talking about that. I have not seen that movie, and that's not going to change.
He committed to that role, man. I mean, geez, if you want to see professionalism, like, wow.
He looks like he painted himself red.
Wow, that's impressive. Did he
It-
become 10 feet tall, too?
Yeah, stilts are an archaic way to do things, but they still
Commit
get
to the
job
bit,
done.
man. Commit to the bit.
If you can do it in camera, it's always going to look better than CGI.
Yep.
So Harrison Ford on his stilts
What the
with
hell?
his red body paint, looking like he's a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Wow.
I
That's a
couldn't
good
think
joke.
of another red team.
No, it's a good joke. It's a good joke. I respect it.
Well, my joke appreciates the respect. But folks, we're gonna get out of here. I'm gonna get back to channel work. It has been a long weekend because of Dion, but we'll talk about that on Thursday for the podcast.
Blame Triple H.
proper. That son of a bitch. We will talk about all that WrestleMania fun stuff and a whole lot more on Thursday night's podcast. So join me then live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the channel. But until then, folks, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
Who's that Pokemon?